IB Nation, we are here. We are back for a post-game show, Notre Dame Marshall. Vince and I just got back from the game, and I'm just going to throw out a couple warnings right now. Number one, our post-game show is different from upon further review. So if you are wanting here just to draw up plays and talk about scheme, this is not the show for that. This is a reaction show. So don't email me this week saying you thought we were going to do something different in the post-game show or how we weren't nice enough in the post-game show. If you want to be told it's okay and you want me to hold you and stroke you and say it's going to be all right and hold your hand, this is not the show for you, okay? Notre Dame football will get right. But that's not the conversation today because, folks, Notre Dame just lost to Marshall, okay? And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what went wrong. We're going to talk about what needs to change, and I'm talking about changing by the time they get to the locker room, okay? Because you cannot just say, hey, we're going to coach a little better and play a little harder, because there are some serious things wrong right now, fellas, because Vince, I remember months ago when you and I got into a little bit of a disagreement on the show where I was like, look, Marshall's better than you think, man, right? And they are. But this ain't that. Right. This isn't well, look, guys, Marshall's better than you all thought they were, blah, 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 blah. You know what? No. I don't care how good Marshall is. This is Notre Dame against Marshall. And there's no excuse. There's no justification. There's nothing at all that's going to point to what happened today. So I'm Brian Driscoll. That's Vince D'Addario. That's Sean Davis. Ryan Roberts will not be with us tonight because he was actually in town for the game. So he's on his way back to the hotel, and that is just not where it's going to be at. So, fellas, we're going to dive right into it, but I want to let people know you can vent. You can be frustrated. We're not going to tell people to say, hey, support this or, support the coaches, or that's not what we do, right? What I said, Vince, when Coach Freeman was hired, I like Coach Freeman. I like Coach Freeman a lot. Personally, I think he's a good man, but he's going to be held to the same standard that we held Brian Kelly to, who I didn't like. Because it's about Notre Dame, and that's what we're going to do today. And if you don't like that, I understand, I respect that, but this isn't the show for you. Okay, so we're gonna tell it like it is, right? And so, beginning, fellas, this was without a doubt, in my view, I really can't think of a more embarrassing loss that Notre Dame has suffered in a very long time. And you can go back to Tulsa 2010. You know what? Tulsa 2010 was better than Marshall. And that was a team coming off of a coach getting fired after a 6-6 season. There's too much talent on this football team for them to lose today. And people say, well, you guys overrated the talent. Okay, fine. Maybe we did. But I don't care how much we overrated the talent. If we did, there's no excuse to lose to Marshall. This team got out coached. They got out hit. They got out hustled. They got out fought. They got out executed. And every time that Notre Dame punched back on Marshall, Marshall punched right back. And Notre Dame had chances in that second half, Vince, and we talked about it on the way home, to put this game away, and they couldn't do it.
Yep.
And Marshall did. And for this, you say the offense is going to catch fire today, fellas. The defense is going to catch fire today. The only coach to earn this paycheck today is Brian Mason, who will kind of throw cold water on the notion of it's early and you can't make adjustments in 1 week, because everything that went wrong on special teams last week got fixed today.
Yeah,
everything.
Absolutely.
Kick return, punt return, coverage, all that stuff. And, we can say, hey, look, I didn't expect Harry Heastand to turn this offensive line into the Joe Moore Award winners by game 2. I didn't expect this offense to look like 2019 LSU by game 2. But there's that, and then there's what we're seeing. And what we saw today was a football team that was unprepared in every facet. And Marshall today had guys step up and make plays when they needed to win the game. Sound familiar? Same thing happened last week. And the fact is, we just watched Notre Dame get outplayed more by Marshall than they got outplayed by Ohio State last week. And there's no excuse for that, fellas. There's none. So right now, we talked about this before the show, fellas, the three of us. And at this point in time, guys, there's like 3 safe jobs right now, right? It's the kickers, the kicker and the punter, the kickoff guy, right? And special teams guys, you know, we're just kind of being hyperbolic. But offensively and defensively, outside of Tariq Bracy and Michael Mayer, there's nobody's job should be secure right now. Nobody. You just lost to Marshall. All bets are off. Everything you thought you were as a football team, out the window. It's starting over from scratch time. And it's about finding out who you are. Who wants to be here? Who wants to win? Somebody asked Freeman after the game about Jarrett Patterson being visibly upset. Good.
Well, yeah.
Y'all remember, was it 87 when Lou Holtz had that story where he walks into the locker room after they got blasted by Texas A&M in a bowl game? And like the only dude that looked upset was Chris Zorich, who's in the locker room sobbing. Dude didn't even play. I want to find out who wants to do this thing. Because right now, fellas, like, that was embarrassing. You got outplayed for 60 minutes by Marshall. And this is coming from someone who's been telling y'all since the summer that Marshall was better than you thought you were. There's no excuse for that. Better than they thought they were should have been like you didn't cover the 20-point spread. That's how Marshall better than people thought they were should have looked like. Maybe only win by 17. But losing in a game where basically it was 26-15 and the game's over, Notre Dame got a garbage touchdown late, man, there's no excuse for that, fellas. No excuse. And we'll get into specifics of what happened, but just big picture, it was an embarrassing loss. It's an embarrassing loss. And there's no spin. If you're looking for, okay, where we go now, we'll have that show tomorrow. We'll have that show on Tuesday and Wednesday and all those other days. But today, look, man, this just isn't okay. There's nothing about this that's okay.
No, you're absolutely right. And I said before the show that I'm speechless, but I got plenty to say. Like, that's how I feel.
He's being hyperbolic as heck on that.
I mean, I can't even get my words straight because of what we watched the entire day. And it's not even Marshall. Look, Marshall outplayed Notre Dame from a physicality standpoint, from a preparation standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, all of that. Even so, even if all of that was true, and it was, Notre Dame still should have won the game.
Yes, no question.
Should have won the game going away.
No question.
And, of course, I give Marshall credit for winning this game. How can you not? They played Notre Dame from start to finish.
They out-coached. Charles Huff had those boys ready to play.
100%.
But it shouldn't have mattered.
It should not have mattered. It shouldn't matter that they're ready to play. Notre Dame still should have kicked them in the face. And they didn't. So, I mean, yes, of course you would give credit to Marshall. I'm going to give credit to Marshall. They did a great job. But it should not that should not have mattered. If Notre Dame came out ready to play and if they wanted to execute and all of these different things that we've talked about, all the problems that they had against Ohio State minus the special teams, they didn't get fixed. They did not get fixed. In fact, in places they got worse. And that's inexcusable. That's inexcusable from a coaching standpoint. It's inexcusable from a player standpoint. It's inexcusable across the board. No doubt about it. They overlooked this game. I don't know what they were looking to, but they overlooked this game. I don't know if they had a hangover from Ohio State. That should not have mattered. This is your first opportunity to play at home. This is Marcus Freeman's first home game as a head coach. All of the different things. This should not have been a problem to get up for this game, and they were as flatlined as you could possibly be. Yeah. They showed up without a heartbeat, period.
And then when they get hit in the mouth, guys, they didn't punch back, Sean. No, that was the biggest thing for me is
they just
yes. I mean, you out-talented them. You out-talented them to get your 15. Like, I can't even point to – and then, like, the thing they did to get their to that one touchdown, Sean, is they started just moving Buckner around and playing to him, and then they went away from that after that touchdown. Like, this team had no response from a coaching standpoint. This team had no response from a player standpoint. And in this game, a lot of your best players, for the most part, not all of them, I thought Mayer battled his butt off, but a lot of your best players were non-existent for chunks of the game, made a play here or there, But when the game was on the line, your best dudes weren't there to make plays. And we talk all you want about the defense and how well it played last week and all this kind of stuff. But for the second week in a row, you had a chance to come up with a stop in the second half. You couldn't get it done. And that's what good teams do. And so when you can't do that, that means is you're not a good team right now. And that's what's got to get fixed.
My biggest takeaway from this game is that they gave up a 95-yard drive to Ohio State to lose that game. And they gave up a 94-yard drive to lose the game today. Yeah. You can make excuses that the best offense in the country went 95 on you. You can make those excuses, and we kind of did, right? I mean, I shouldn't use the word excuse. It still shouldn't have happened, right? But you can kind of explain it away because it was Ohio State.
Right.
Well, the same thing just happened. You had the lead. You gave the ball. You pinned him deep. It was a great punt. You pinned him deep on the 6-yard line. And you let them methodically drive right down the field.
Well, and the thing is, that was a coaching and player thing, guys. And Sean, I'm gonna let you get in here in a second. But on that particular play, you actually stopped them the first 2 plays, and then Marshall went right to what they knew they could do. Anytime Marshall needed to play, they said, "Go to the flats because we can out leverage them all day." And they did it every single time. The contain of this game.
They ran the same play over and over.
Just get outside. Sean, go ahead, man. Just say, let's hear it.
I'm going to say this because it starts at the top for me. We heard all off season about a vision. And that's cool when you step in as a head coach. Every head coach should have a vision.
Mm-hmm.
But you might not be able to actually apply that vision. You have to know your team. At this point, I question whether or not Marcus Freeman knows this team.
Right.
Because the 2 things he said, which was run the ball and stop the run, they can't do it.
No, they can't.
And we've seen it for 2 straight weeks. So you don't have that personnel right now. So you got to figure it out. And it's your job to figure it out. Who is your team? Because there's nothing else to play for. NY6, done. College football playoff, done.
Yep.
This is all about heart now.
Yep.
What do you have? Do you have pride? As a Notre Dame football player, do you have any pride left to turn this season around and make it successful? To go into Clemson and go into USC with meaning.
Bro, they got to beat Cal with meaning. Like, I'm with you. But it's like, you got to show me you can beat Cal right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sean, you nailed it, because this is what this is about. We're going to talk about coaching, and we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about that. But here's the deal, man. This is a team that today, and I say this with all due respect, and I don't say this lightly. Y'all know me. But this is a team that did not show me any heart today. And that's the most concerning thing.
Yeah.
And it showed me that this is a team that severely lacks leadership, and I believe leadership starts from the top down. And again, my opinion of Marcus Freeman as a person and the hire has not changed, but right now, this ain't working. And it's who steps up and makes that play when you need a play? Who right now Notre Dame doesn't have, and for 2 games in a row, they've been given opportunities. Hey, make this throw, make this catch, make this block, make this tackle, make this, do this coverage. They haven't been able to do it. And, they'll do it for a play here, do it for a play there, make a nice tackle for loss, and then bam. And here's the thing, fellas. If the red zone defense wasn't as good as it was today, this game isn't as close as it was.
Yeah.
I believe twice they stopped them and held them to field goals inside the 5.
Yes.
Like, guys, look, I want to come in here and I want to be like, hey, guys, it's going to be all right, and support the team and all that kind of stuff. But, it's Marshall, fellas. And that's no disrespect to Marshall, because I've been saying for months that this is a good football team. But I don't care. You're at home. You're Notre Dame. You can't tell me it's about physical athletic talent. You cannot tell me that, because it's not. It's about coaching. It's about attitude. It's about execution, and it's from the top down.
Right. And there was not one position group that I will say played great. Like,
there's a player here or there. That's
sure. Yeah, of course there's a player here or there. But overall, I mean, let's talk about it. Let's talk about these. I don't know if that's the direction you want to go in right now.
Yeah, let's do it, Vince. Let's do it.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, let's go position by position or position group.
Let's go. Let's start with the offense and just kind of talk big picture and then go kind of position group by position group.
Let's do it. So offensively, right? We heard all week how Notre Dame's going to take shots and Notre Dame's going to be more aggressive offensively and all of these different things. And you said it during the game when you and I were talking. Of course, we talked the entire game. But at one point you said they're still calling plays like they have an offensive line that can move the football.
Yeah.
And that clearly wasn't the case. So there's no adjustments. It's the game plan was we can run the ball against these guys, and here's our game plan based on that. When the foundation of your game plan isn't working, you have to change, period. You have to. And they didn't because the offensive line couldn't hold their water. I mean, it wasn't good. The offensive line did not play well. No. And I know that there's stuff all over social media about how pissed off Jarrett Patterson was and all that. He should play better. He didn't play very well.
Play better.
And his group didn't play very well. And he's a captain. He should be mad. You should be. And I want to see that. I'm glad he's mad. He should be. It was not a good day for him.
Yeah, now do something about it.
Yeah, 100%. It wasn't good. Notre Dame gave up the middle offensively and defensively all day long. Yeah. All day long. But they kept handing the ball off up the middle. It's like, what are we doing?
Right.
You got to get to the outside. And they didn't. So the offensive line did not show up today. Again, that's 2 games in a row. And that, to me, that's on Harry Hiestand. He's not getting he's not getting these guys.
Well, it's on the whole offensive staff,
course.
Sean. And I'm going to kick this to you in a second because I want to lead you into this here for a second. To me, you talked earlier about this isn't about playoff. This isn't about getting to the Fiesta Bowl. This is about pride. This is about who owns big boy pants and who's willing to put them on. Mm-hmm. And there's no with the defense for me, and we'll get to this. It's about cleaning some stuff up defensively. There's some stuff that's got to get cleaned up, and there's 3 guys in particular that need to have a foot put on their behinds. Right? I'm sorry, and it's your 3 best players who I think the world of as young men. Right? But it's mostly cleanup stuff. Offensively, fellas, and Sean, I'm going to kick this to you because you said this before. This isn't about just execution. We're going to talk but we're going to talk coaching stuff and scheme and execution. But this is a team, and this is what I'm going to kick it about Jarrett Patterson. Look, you're the captain. And the fact is your team and your not just your unit, but your side of the ball plays with 0 fire right now. You play with no sense of, hey, fellas, we're going to butt kick. Let's dig down deep and go get this. And you had a chance to do that in the 3rd quarter when you faced a 3rd and 2 and a 4th and 1 against Marshall. And your coach, and here's what I did like about Freeman today. Those 4th down calls, I loved every single one of them. Because it's like, if we can't get this, then we don't deserve to win. And they didn't. And that to me, Sean, is where their pride was challenged by their own head coach, rightfully so. Rightfully so. It was a good call. Yeah. And they said, no, Marshall wanted it more than them. And it just.
The news that Jarrett Patterson was so irate as a leader that he wanted to leave the field and have to be pulled back for the alma mater is a joke to me. We all know that Tyler Buckner didn't have his best day today. And it's the type of game where the leadership should have surrounded him and helped him out and got him the W because the opportunity was there. Tyler leads them on a drive to seal the game. They're up 15-12. I believe they call a timeout. They come out, it's 3rd and 3. You already know it's 2 down territory. You got 2 plays to get 3 yards and seal this game. Mm-hmm. It's a wrap. Put them down 10, we go home. Your 5th-year captain comes out and gets a false start.
Yep.
That's your captain right there. The one that has the audacity to be upset. You should have been upset right then. Don't wait until after the game. be upset then, because that's a first down you just cost your team. That's time off the clock you just cost your team. And that's a score you just cost your team to seal the game. All because you were undisciplined.
Because your defense had just made a stop. Your defense responded to you taking the lead with a 4-and-out.
With a 4-and-out.
And you're in Marshall territory.
Yes.
Yep.
Game is over.
Yes. Fifth-year senior, captain, the one that everyone was so ecstatic about returning.
Because he's the reason they lost to Ohio State last week.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Not having him.
Right. They were on the 38-yard line. 38-yard line.
In Marshall territory, fellas.
Yes.
And that's what Sean was saying. Sean, that's what you said. You're in 2-down territory.
Oh,
you're getting another chance to come out and put this game away.
Yes, and they had finally, this was the drive where they had finally put Chris Tyree in the game.
Oh, my gosh.
To run the ball, and you saw he was able to make. And your
hardest run of the night was by your speed back, by the way.
Yes.
Just want to point that out. And we're gonna get to Chris Tyree here in a minute.
Oh,
oh
my God.
Your captain fails you, but he wants to be so irate after the game.
Unless we find out he was mad at himself. That's the only thing that I'll accept.
It's still as a leader, you know that.
Yep.
Lead the boys to the alma mater.
Yep.
You're the one.
Yep.
After the game.
And then go own it in the locker room. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Sean. Then go own it in the locker room. You're right.
You got to be better. You have to be better. So to me, that's a joke.
Yep.
Because now, who are you doing that for?
Right.
All of that. Who is that for?
But that shows a lack of discipline, Sean.
Yeah.
And that lack of discipline also is shown in the false start. And that's the thing that's troubling for me. Because, and again, this is where, look, when things aren't going right is when you need people to be able to speak truth to you. And I say this out of respect to Coach Freeman because he's someone I want to have success because I root for good people.
Absolutely.
He's a good man.
Yeah.
My wife has a picture of him hugging his little daughter before the game. It's just like, this is a good man, but I got to speak truth to him right now. Okay. You have an undisciplined football team.
Yes.
You got to figure out why. You got to figure out what is, and he said this after the game. He's like, we got to look at everything right now. But you have an undisciplined football team that in clutch moments can't execute simple things like not false starting. And it wasn't your sophomore Blake Fisher, the inexperienced Blake Fisher. It wasn't the inexperienced Joe Alt. It wasn't any of your 6 sophomores in your starting lineup. So don't give me they're a young team. No.
There's a captain.
Your 4th year as a starter, captain.
Yep.
False started.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Just
that's
a lack of discipline. Yep. And here's the thing, fellas. Yes, there's a lot of young players on this football team. With the couple of exceptions, a lot of the most frustrating things for me happening in the first 2 weeks are not being done by the young players. Tyler had a couple bad throws today, right? So, and we'll kind of walk through this tomorrow upon further review. So we're not going to get into X's and O's of it today. We'll get into that tomorrow. But the throw, the pick 6, right? He's got to go to Mayer. Mayer's open on that play.
Oh, wide open.
So he makes the wrong read.
No doubt.
But where's the fight from Jaden Thomas on that throw? At worst, that should have been an incomplete pass. At worst.
Correct.
Right? So outside of those couple plays, the misses today were, where's Foskey in the first half? Where's Foskey when the game's on the line? Why is Cam Hart giving away the inside all flipping game? I love Cam. Great kid. Met some kids today at the tailgate today. They said they know Cam. They're students in Notre Dame. Phenomenal young man. And I love Cam. But I'm sorry. How much I care about you as a young person does not stop the fact that I got to criticize when you don't do the job, right? We're the baddest mofos out there. You ain't playing like it.
Not even close.
You know? And it's like, and I love Jason. There is not a bigger supporter and defender of Jason Alamill than me. But you needed to step up today, and you didn't get it done. Right? And, yeah, they made a play here and a play there. And you know, Cam coming up and blowing up that jet sweep. But then the next play, you give out contain on a they're trying to run double pass and you give out outside the guy just takes off running. It's 3rd and long because you made a big stop behind the line and you lose contain on a slide route. Like, this is an undisciplined football team that doesn't know how to punch back, fellas. Those are 2 really bad qualities in a football team. And the thing is, it's not – look, if the issues there were like Blake Fisher false starts on 3rd and 3 late in the game, you know what, guy? Hey, they're going to be all right. He's a young kid. He'll learn. It's just his 3rd start, right? You could spin that 4-star. You could spin that. There's no spin when it's your freaking 5th-year senior, 4-year starter at left guard. There's no spin on that, guys. There's no spin when your, potential first-round draft pick at the end is not playing like a guy that should be starting, much less a first-round draft pick. There's no spin when your best corner is giving up the inside over and over and over and over, right? I mean, it just was all night long. And offensively, this team has – and I think this phrase gets used way too often. And most people don't know how to use it. But there's no – I don't even say – it's not even about identity. There's no purpose to what they're doing offensively.
No,
there's not one play building to the next. It's just weird. It's just like, and then you'll dial up something when hey, we need a drive here, so let's dial up the QB runs and the boots and all this. And then after that, we're going to go freaking away from it. You know what I mean? Like, what are you trying to do?
Right.
You're going 11 personnel, 21 personnel, moving right up down the field. And then you get into a 2nd and 2 and pressure. Now it's 3rd and 2. And then you go 13 personnel. And you let Marshall get their undersized defense real tight inside, and then they just burrow underneath you on 2 straight runs. I was about as predictable as can be. Vince, I think I looked to you and said that. I said, why are they going 13 personnel here? On that 3rd and 2, I was like, why are they going 13 personnel right here? I don't understand this. You're getting them in 21. Like 21 and 11 was working for you in the run game because they had to vacate the box and defend the RPOs and do all that kind of stuff, and it was working for you.
That stuff worked. That's my issue, right? And everybody's banging on Tyler Buchner, and I get it. He didn't have a great game. I get that.
He was your only offense today, though.
Notre Dame scores 0 points without Tyler Buchner today. Okay, yes, Drew Pine had 20 yards passing, and he threw that touchdown at the end. That was garbage. They weren't going to win.
After they lost the game through the interception.
100%. They weren't going to win the game at that point.
No.
He threw 6 balls. One of them got picked. I mean, anyway. So you score 0 points without Buchner.
Right.
That's my issue. Everybody's
Tyler's got to get better after 2
100%. 100%.
Tyler ain't your problem today. Tyler ain't your problem today.
But he also had a deep ball down the middle that was dropped.
Right.
He had a deep ball down the sideline that hit his receiver in the freaking head.
I don't get that. I don't
hit him in the back of the head.
I still don't know how that happened. Sean, you know what play we're talking about?
What,
the one that hit Lindsey in the 4th quarter, hit him right in the head?
It literally hit him in the back of the head.
Now, I don't know how it looked from your point of view, but I know on TV when they showed the replay, Lindsey had to slow down and bend backwards because the ball was
which means he's got to go make a play for the ball.
Which means
he needs to go up and get it.
He needs to stop and jump up and down. But that's not Braden Lindsey's the type of kid you need to hit him running in stride.
Right. Which he needs to do in the 2nd quarter. Braden smokes a dude on a post route late in the 2nd quarter, and you miss him. Can't miss those.
He's got to get better about he laid out for it.
No, that was not – Braden did what he needed to do on that play.
Yeah, no, that's not that, and that's on Buchner. He's got to hit that shot. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Yep.
But, he wasn't the problem, right? This is a bigger problem than Tyler Buchner. That's the point I'm trying to make, right? And when Drew Pine came in and the entire stadium started clapping, and then he goes and throws an interception. So can we all just kind of tamp down that Tyler or that Drew Pine is the answer here? Because he's not. But my issue is when they allowed Tyler Buchner to be Tyler Buchner, the offense was moving, the offense was dynamic.
Oh.
And then they stopped doing it and they start handing the ball off up the middle again. Yeah. I just don't understand. It just doesn't make any sense to me. They had one successful drive against Ohio State, and then they went away from it. They had successful drives today, and then they went away from it. Like what are they seeing that we're not seeing?
Yeah.
I guess that's my biggest issue. The fans see it. We see it. I don't.
But see, that's what I said to you, Sean, Vince, and Sean, I want to get your thoughts on this. We heard all off season, and this is why I really wish I could have been at practice in fall camp. But like we heard all offseason and all fall camp, man, this offensive line is putting in work. You guys saw it. I mean, you guys saw it with your own eyes. You saw them doing that in practice. And then you get to the games and it's just like it ain't working. And I actually understood it against Ohio State. I did, because your offensive line had been playing well all fall camp. I understand that game plan going into this game, but you had to come into this game thinking if our offensive line doesn't get established, we got to have answers. And they didn't do that, right? I mean, and the thing that bothered me is when they needed a play, they would then go to that.
Right.
Just go to that.
Right.
You know, so you're getting whipped up front, and yet you're still trying to run plays like you have that group. And it's not just the O-line. These tight ends aren't blocking anybody.
No, agree with that too.
So there's no purpose to 13 personnel right now in the run game because they're not blocking anybody. I mean, I'm being a bit hyperbolic with that, but also it's kind of understandable too. Your offensive line, your tight ends are getting whipped on, they're getting beat across their face on backside. I mean, the execution of this is really
it's not good. It's not good at all.
But you got to know that, and you got to look. Every coach goes through that in a game. Hey, look, what we thought was going to work isn't working.
Right.
You got to figure something out.
You got to adjust at that point,
and then
they did last year.
But the thing is, Sean, I want to kick it to you to talk about the offense. The frustrating thing is they would adjust, and it would work, and then they'd go right back to what they were doing before.
It's just like he's throwing stuff and hoping it sticks, right? It's this creative mind that your offensive coordinator has, and he's just trying to show how creative he can be instead of just simplifying. Look, you have a young quarterback. At this point, the offense should be as it needs to be. The formations that are going to work. And this is what irritates me, because I know you said it on your show. We said it in conversation. We said all week. They have two defensive backs that are very aggressive. They will jump routes. Micah Abraham jumped the route last week, took it back for a pick six. We said it in the middle.
Yep.
We said expect it all week.
Yep.
Tommy just came out like he didn't know that they were going to play man-to-man and bring the safeties down in the box to get 9 in the box to stop the run early. Like, he didn't know that. And see, you can say the offensive line didn't get any push. It's 9 in the box. With a quarterback that's not hitting the plays that he gets a chance to make on the deep balls. So now what do you want him to do? Right? And then it's a shuffling in of formations every other play. Like, there's no consistency. There's no rhythm.
And they can't get lined up.
They can't get lined up. They're looking to the sideline. It's just a mess. It's a mess. And it's almost like, what was the game plan coming into this matchup? Because you should have known that they were going to be aggressive. And at that point, you should have been going out to the flat, Bryan, look, you know how great Bryce Young is.
Yeah.
I don't respect Bill O'Brien that much as an offensive play caller. He went on the road in a hostile environment, expecting an aggressive defense. And for the first days, he found a way to get the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs, his best athlete. He was like, I'm not about to come out, just call exotic things. We're going to swing pass, run, move him to the slot, jet sweep. We're going to find ways to get him the ball and see if he can make plays for us. We're going to let them calm down. And when we get into the milk or the middle of this thing, then we'll see how we can attack them with our quarterback and the rest of our passing game. Chris Tyree on a swing pass. Somebody else on a swing pass. A quick screen here. They could have run the middle screen to the tight end all game long.
Yeah.
It was wide open. It was wide open. It wasn't a screen, but he hit Bauman in the middle of the field when he was scrambling out to the right. He ended up running down to like the 2-yard line. The middle of the field was wide open all day. Why? Because you had safeties that wanted to stick their nose in the run game, and you had your DBs playing tight man to man.
Yep.
Michael Mayer was running wide open pretty much all day. Just all day. They couldn't stick him.
Like
they missed him on the cross late in the game. Was that in the fourth quarter? They missed him on the crossing route where he overthrew him where he was wide open. You said he was wide open on the interception.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was like out of a 3-by-1.
3-by-1.
He missed him high.
He was open.
Yeah.
He was open. I don't understand. There is no cohesion to the offense. There's no thought. There is no step one to get to step two. We're setting this team up for this in the second half. None of that. Like you said, we get down, we get our backs up against the wall. And, oh, now let's go to this package because we need to make some hay. And then you just leave it alone. Once you finally score, you never go back to it until that situation arises again. Bryan, it's all bad right now, top to bottom. Yeah. It's all bad, right? I'm going to say it. It feels like a Major League Baseball team that is in a full rebuild. Like, okay, let's see what these youngsters have. Let's see what we got on the roster. Let's just, man, everybody's open. Competition is open again. Man, we got to look at coaching. We got to look at everything. We got to see what we have because this is about building the team, finishing off the season, and more than that, getting guys ready to play going into next season. That's just being realistic. Because other than that, all of your goals that were at the top of your list, they're done.
Yep.
They're done.
Like let's I want to talk about this right now, guys, because this bothered me too from the game. Can y'all explain to me why there was at least 4 or 5 times today when 3 receivers were all standing right next to each other? This is like literally after the snap. That's the thing that's frustrating me is like this, like here's the thing, right, fellas? You know, we could come in here and say, you know, it's game 2 and you're going to have some things at the beginning of the season that aren't this or aren't that. And that's true. You're not going to be in peak midseason form in game 2.
Yeah.
Right. But there's that. And then there's what we saw today.
Well, and
right. Yeah. And it's the false starts. It's the guys not getting lined up. There was one point in time where Chancey Stuckey is about to lose his freaking mind on the sidelines trying to get the receivers. And it wasn't even the receivers, like the whole offense lined up correctly. And when stuff like that is happening, this isn't, it's game 2. This is, what the freaking heck are you guys doing when you're running pass patterns and guys are just like right bunched up? And you guys remember the play, I think it was the second quarter, where Buckner threw to Mayer on like an option route and he threw wide. And it was the 3rd down play. And I'm watching that play from the box, and it was I can't remember. I can't remember who the other receiver was, but one of them was Jaden Thomas, and they all ran like kind of like stop routes, like some kind of route where you're going to stop at the end. And when they weren't open, they just stood there. Like every receiver at every level of football is taught, if you're not open and you see the quarterback go away from you, work. And you know where you should be taught where to work. And they would just stop. And then Tyler's like looking around like, okay, I don't know where to go with the ball. You guys are just standing around and you're covered, you know? And it's just like, when you're seeing stuff like that constantly, when you're seeing stuff where like early in the game, they ran an outside zone to Estime and they just turn a guy loose. And I don't know who was at fault here. And so we won't draw this play up because I couldn't tell you, but it was Blake Fisher. Everybody's like, oh, Blake Fisher got beat. Blake Fisher thought he was getting help from the inside. Now, I don't know if Blake Fisher missed the call and he shouldn't have thought he got help and he should just block the guy and then they run right outside of it. Or if Josh Lugg was supposed to help with him. I don't know what should have happened, but what I know is there was a clear miscommunication on a simple outside zone play.
Yes.
And you just turn a dude loose. And we saw that time and again. The play that Jarrett Patterson gave up a hit on Tyler Buckner, it was about the most easy ET stunt I've ever seen in my life. And they come pick it up. You know what I mean? It's just like you're seeing stuff like that happen over and over again. And then you're getting false starts on 3rd and 8. You're getting silly blocking the back penalties that negates a big run from your quarterback. And remember, what was the other series where they started off? I think it was the second quarter. And it was the play where Vince, do you have your notes from today's game with you? They ran a play to I think it was to Lorenzo Styles, He catches the ball and he gains some positive yards. And I think they came right back on like the next play and they get a false start. And it's just like, what the heck is going on? Yes, it was. It was he for 20 yards, and then the next play you get a false start on. So you're at your own 9. It was you're backed up. You're at your own 9-yard line. Okay, so first down. No, I'm sorry. Hold on. You're at your own 10-yard line. First down. Tyler Buckner keeps it and runs for 20 yards, and it comes back because of a terrible block in the back penalty by Jane Thomas, which was just you get beat. And then then you compound it by blocking a guy in the back. Guy probably doesn't even make the tackle on Tyler Buckner anyway. So then it's first and 14. You go up the middle for 3 yards, and then on 2nd and 11, Buckner hits Lorenzo Styles. He makes a guy miss, goes for 20 yards, get the ball out to the 29. So you got yourself some breathing room. 1st and 10 on the very next play, false start from your junior tight end.
Correct.
1st and 15 in the stall drives. The drive stalls. So it wasn't just the one play.
And the very next play is the one that hit Lindsey in the back of the head.
Yeah. Which, again, it was not a good ball, but you got to make a better effort than that, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like the interception, the pick 6. Tyler's can't make that throw. But as a receiver, where's your fight? Where's your compete level for that football? And we didn't see that today. And it's like it's amazing to me to watch simple things that defenses do take things away. So like today, what Marshall was doing, which was kind of smart, is they were not giving safety help over the top a lot to one side of the field. But what they were doing is they were using their leverage with the corner to take away the outside. So Notre Dame was just kind of doing like a little stutter and then releasing right outside, which is letting them ride them right out of bounds. Where you attack it. First thing I'd always teach receivers, attack his leverage, and then the aiming point is his outside shoulder. Like it was like the armpit of his outside shoulder. You stretch him outside, and then when he takes away that outside, you slip inside and get right up on top, and you're open. Is that like a foreign concept? Is throwing to the field not allowed? Did I miss the NCAA rule change where you can't throw vertically to the field side? Is that a thing now? Like Vince, remember early in the game, I looked at you and I was like, dude, seriously, the safety is closer to the line of scrimmage than the corner. Yes. And you got a one-on-one to the field. And, what are we doing?
Right.
And like the other thing, they were playing cover 2 to the boundary. Like, can we run all verts against this, please? And, where that backside safety's put in a bind. And if he takes it, then you can throw the front side seam or something. Like we're allowed to attack the field and you're allowed to attack the middle of the field on something other than a tight end pop pass. So those are both allowed, and so the point is, guys, there's no purpose. There's no purpose to what they're doing. And then they're just the constant bad, silly mistakes that they make that are just drive crushing. That's bad preparation. That's bad leadership from the player level at the coach level. Because, again, it ain't Blake Fisher that's making those false starts. It's not Lorenzo Styles or Joe Alt or Logan Diggs or Audric Estime or any other young players in the lineup. It's a junior tight end. I'm sorry. I know you haven't played a lot of football, but a junior tight end should know not to false start. I mean, it's not too hard, right? Your 5th-year senior captain, 4-year starter should know, hold your water.
Yep.
Exactly. And it is really frustrating. It is really frustrating to watch an offense that just doesn't seem to have a lot of a purpose. And then on top of that, you're not disciplined and you're fundamentally unsound. And the expectation was that stuff would get fixed. And here's the frustrating thing. I've seen a lot of practice film that you guys have taken from practice, and I'm watching the drills be done. But for whatever reason, what they're drilling is not being carried into the practice, into the game field. And that's a problem. And that's a coaching problem and a player problem, because you're either teaching it or you're allowing it. One of those two things is true. And I'm going to say it now. It's insane to me that Chris Tyree is not getting more touches, number one. And if your receivers are going to be that bad at certain things, like fight for the ball. And again, I'm not even coming at Braden. I didn't like how Braden played that one. And there's some other things he needs to do better. But Braden also got open a few times too and didn't get the ball. But Jaden Thomas is a guy everybody tells us, this guy's a great practice. Get it in the spring game and that's it. Like, fight for the ball. Compete. Battle, dude. Battle somebody. You know what I mean? Like if Tobias Merriweather doesn't know enough of the offense to get on the field, then you know what? That's a coaching problem. But then put him on the field for the 3 things he knows how to do and get him the ball. It's maddening.
Yeah. And I know like fans have their particular areas that they think is more egregious right now. Let me say it again. It's all bad.
Yeah.
It's all bad.
Unless your name is John Sott, Blake Groupie, or Tariq Bracy, or Brian Mason, I'm, sorry.
Every positional coach, head coach, every positional coach, every position group, every individual player, leadership, it's all bad right now. It's just all bad. And you're at the point as a fan base where you get to sit back and watch either the development of what could be or will be a national championship caliber program, or it goes the other way. There's only 1 or 2 ways it can go. Now is that time.
Yeah.
Their backs are against the wall.
Oh, my gosh.
Now,
I thought that,
you see, now you're about to see what this coaching staff, this head coach, this coaching staff, and these players are made of. You're about to see what they're made of. Flat out.
Yeah. Well, the problem is, Sean, is go ahead.
Bauman, he can mess around if he wants to. I know when I played basketball, the best teacher was that seat right next to the coach. That was the best teacher in the world. So if he wants to continue to come into tight sets and let outside guys come clean across his face and get into the tackle, you know where you can go? You can come stand right next to me. Eli, Holden, you're in. It's like it's time. It's at that point where it's time out for loving. You're talking about guys being great leaders and talking about guys being extremely smart at this position, and they're so smart and they pick up this and they pick up that. No. I need people that are going to make plays.
Yeah.
I need people that are going to be fundamentally sound and make plays. That's all I need right now. We're going back to the fundamentals right here, Vince.
Yep.
We're not about to get cute. This is what we do well. These are the packages that we're successful in. We're going to run this until they stop it.
Absolutely.
And when they stop it, then we'll find something else to do. If they had done that today, they would have won the game. If they had just put Tyler back there, 11 personnel, 12 personnel.
With Chris Tyree in the backfield.
With Chris Tyree, and force them to go outside and run RPOs and all of the cutback stuff that Chris Tyree would have had, they would have ran Marshall off the field.
Yep, absolutely agree.
Formationally, Tommy put Marshall in advantageous situations to be able to execute their game plan. He did nothing to take them out of what they wanted to do. And when you do that as a coach, you put your players in a bad position. You put your players in a bad position. When your leadership doesn't step up,
right? You
put the players
right.
Tyler Buckner should not be expected to lead this team the way it's constructed. You have too much leadership to expect him to put the team on his back in his second career start. That's asking way too much of him. He should be able to go out and play behind the leadership that's on that offensive line and that's in the wide receiver corps. You can't have Logan Diggs just allowing free rushers to come up the middle.
Right.
Just whiffing on his block. That's not the offensive line. Dylan McCullough has to get him straight.
Absolutely.
Or else, you know what? You can sit right here. Hey, Jabron Payne, come on in. Come on in. You want to sulk and get mad because I'm telling you messed up?
Okay.
Sit right there. We'll bring the freshman in. It's at that point. It's at that point, right? Because I don't know if we're dealing with the residue of what was left over from an attitude standpoint, but this leadership here, and Vince, I asked the question, and you can go ahead and grab it right here, Vince. What would this team look like if those guys didn't come back? Just think about if Foskey, Patterson, what if they didn't? If Mayer didn't come back, if Michael Mayer didn't come back and he's in the NFL starting tomorrow, what would this offense look like?
Right. Right.
No, you're not wrong. And I just don't understand as a coach. Look, I won't even fault the game plan. That's neither here nor there, to be honest with you. You can have whatever game plan you want coming into a game. And frankly, you should have been able to run the ball against Marshall. Okay. So if that's your game plan to run the ball and stop the run, okay, that's fine. No problem. Okay. If that's your game plan, great. But it became very evident very quickly that game plan wasn't going to work.
No.
And I saw no adjustment to making a new game plan in this game offensively. I just saw nothing. And that is my biggest issue. Number one, you're not getting your best guys the ball. Number two, you're not getting the ball wide like you need to.
Mm-hmm.
It's embarrassing in a lot of ways, to be honest. And I'm at a loss because I saw a dynamic offense when I was at practice. I did. I saw it. And I've seen glimpses of it in games. When they go the length of the field and they score touchdowns because they're allowing Tyler Buchner to be Tyler Buchner. Because look, is he a super duper accurate quarterback when he's just sitting in the pocket and getting rushed? No, he's not great. At least he hasn't shown it up to this point. But you know when he is accurate? When he's able to run read option and RPOs and everything else thrown across his body to Kevin Bauman up the middle. That was because he was on the move. He was off platform. That is when he is at his best. And how can you not know that as his coach? That's my issue. How can you not know that?
Yeah.
We see it. Everybody sees it. The 80,000 people saw it. But the coaches apparently don't see it, or they just don't want to see it. And that's the issue that I have. You have to be able to make those adjustments. And if you're not going to make those adjustments, or if you're the head coach and you're not allowing those adjustments to be made, wherever the lack of communication is, okay, it's wrong. And it's not good. It's bad. Period. That's the problem to me.
And people that want to go with, like I said, Tyler didn't play his best game, but this is a team that seems like it was being built offensively around Tyler Buchner to carry the load.
Right.
And with the leadership, that is the wrong struck this offense. That is not, you are putting way too much on this young man. Now it's totally different if we get 5-6 games into the season and he's shown himself to be able to take on more of a responsibility. But the leadership on this offensive side of the ball, from a fundamental standpoint, the plan should have been from the players, we are going to play clean football.
Yes, and
right.
they didn't.
And put our quarterback in the best position to be successful.
And they didn't. The players didn't execute. Look, and I have to bring this up. How am I tiptoeing around the fact that I didn't like the game plan? I'm not tiptoeing around it. I said.
And we've said this like multiple times in this show.
I don't care what the game plan was. You can have whatever game plan you want, but you have to adjust out of it if it's not working.
Guys, the reality is it's Marshall.
Right.
You could have the most mediocre game plan in the country, and if your team is simply, here's the deal, guys. Let's be real about this. Okay? We can talk about game plan should have been this, and there's a lot we could say about that. Where's the running back screens? Like, I'm waiting on them against this cover zero fire to do some kind of roll out throwback screen to Chris Tyree or something, right? Like, you got stuff. Use your freaking weapons, right? We can do all that all day, but it's Marshall. That's true against Ohio State. This is absolutely. Marshall.
Yes.
Here's the deal. A team that was disciplined beats Marshall. Now, 100%. It might have been an ugly loss, and we'd probably still be a little cranky right now. Man, I can't believe you only beat Marshall by 7. But you win.
Yes.
You still, if it was simple, just your fifth-year senior doesn't jump off sides, there's a pretty good chance you go down there and it's 22-12, and it's ball game, fellas.
And it's over.
Ball game.
It's over. You're on the 38-yard line with a 3rd and 3, okay? I don't care if you run triple option out of that. You're going to get a first down if you get outside. You give Tyler Buchner the option to throw or pass, you're going to get a first down because he's probably just going to keep it and get the 3 yards, okay? And then you're still in business and you're moving the ball down the field, but you get a false start.
Right.
And I realize you can't boil this whole game down to one thing, but at least you're getting away from a win at that point.
But it speaks to the entire problem. Here's the thing.
Right.
If we just pointed to one play and said, that's the reason they lost, we'd be a-holes.
Yeah,
and we'd just
absolutely.
be emotional like, oh, we're just these guys that just happen to have a YouTube show and just scream crazy things like we heard last week after the game on Sunday night, right? But here's the deal. It's an epidemic of that stuff. It's that play represents what we see throughout the game. Right, it's the not being able to get lined up correctly. It's about not getting the ball snapped on time. You could just see Marcus Freeman down on the sideline, just like, seriously, why can't we snap the ball? It's like we're gonna burn every timeout we have. And they got lucky. There was one time the play clock ran down, fellas, and they didn't blow the whistle like they. I mean, it was literally like a full second. That thing looked to me like it was on zero, and you didn't get it. And then, so what happens when you have a young team? And again, there is youth. That's not an excuse. When you don't have young players prepared and they're rushing, they're not going to execute that rushed play the way veterans will.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And so don't put them in that position to rush that. Get the call made.
Right.
You know, and so to me, we can talk about the game plan all we want, and we'll do that tomorrow when we get a chance to break the film down and study it more, look at it in a more level-headed way. But the game plan's not the problem to beat Marshall. The game plan is why you don't beat them by 30. The loss to Marshall goes way deeper than the offensive game plan or play calling. Way deeper.
Yes.
It is a fact that you are not playing some young players, right? Because they're young and they don't know the whole playbook and we can't trust them. But you know who I didn't trust today? Your veterans who are getting the worst penalties that you had.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, you know, I mean, that's the stuff for me, fellas, is, you know, we can kind of come with all this stuff about game plan, and that's legit. There's value to that, but like, y'all are focusing on the wrong things. Fixing the game plan doesn't mean Notre Dame runs a table and goes 10-0 the rest of the way. They can fix the game plan all they want, and guess what? Stuff's going to creep up, and they're going to have problems. They're going to get beat. They're going to have mistakes. They're going to do all this kind of stuff. It goes deeper than that. It's about your team was undisciplined. Your team, especially on offense, but really both sides of the ball, never punched back. And that says so much more about this football team. I'm going to say something right now. Marcus Freeman, as a young head coach at 36 years old, gave a lot of freedom to his assistant coaches. It's time to take all that back. Because, my man, this is your neck on the line ultimately, right? This is your team. This is your program. You're the future of this program. It's time to say, hey, I gave you all this. And it's like when you got kids, right? I mean, you know, little kids or whatever. I was like, my dad was like this growing up. Yeah, I'm going to give you this, but you better be responsible with it. And if you don't be responsible with it, then I'm going to take it away. And that's what he did. He showed a lot of faith in his staff. And I don't have a problem with that. But it's about, okay, they haven't earned that yet. What are you going to do about it? And that's the thing, fellas, is that's the part that's got to get fixed. And I know we have a lot of super chats, and we'll get to a lot of those, and we appreciate all the super chats. But the thing is, we can talk about play calling and scheme and all that, fellas, but on both sides of the ball, this is a team that doesn't have the fight to do what they need to do when the game is on the line. In 3 straight games now, this football team has had a lead in the fourth quarter, I believe, or at least at the very least late third quarter, has had a lead because Ohio State took the lead late in the third quarter last week. But you've had a lead late in the third quarter of all 3 of those games, and you lost all of them.
Yep. That's unacceptable. 2 90-plus yard drives to put you out of your misery 2 weeks in a row. It's not okay. Period. And yes, we had a lot of nice things to say about the defense last week against Ohio State. And it's not like I'm taking all of that back, but they didn't play very well today. They didn't. They got abused up the middle. They got absolutely abused up the middle. Yeah. And look, the secondary played fine. Okay, whatever. But Marshall wasn't going down the field on them. They were being stretched, horizontally. The defense was being stretched horizontally. They couldn't set the edge. They couldn't defend the middle. There wasn't much the defense did well. Okay. So You can't give up a 94-yard drive with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, a 5-minute and 16-second, 11-play, 94-yard drive that ends in a touchdown. You can't do that. You had them 3rd and 9 on the -7-yard line. 3rd and 9. And they just run that little deal where they just get a guy underneath and he gains 11 yards.
Yeah.
3rd and 9. Even after the Patterson false start and all of that, you pin them deep, you get them to 3rd and 9, and you give up 11 yards. You had an opportunity for them to be punting out of their own end zone with about 8 minutes to go, and you gave up 11 yards. That's not okay either, you know? And it was the same play that they've been running all game long when they needed it, and we couldn't stop it. And it's maddening to me. And everybody in the stadium knew what play they were going to run on 3rd and 9, and Notre Dame couldn't stop it. And then they proceeded to give up, you know, the rest of the 94 yards for a touchdown. Just
you can't be on the goal line in that same series, Vince, and drop 8 and have a guy wide open in the end zone.
Absolutely.
Like, you drop 8 into the end zone, and this guy is just wide open.
Wide open.
End zone.
Wide open.
You allow the quarterback to get outside once again.
Correct.
Y'all gonna love this, by the way. I had to dip out because I had to go tell my mom. My mom and my wife were up there fussing about the game, and the mic's picking it up. I'm like, y'all gonna take this somewhere else. You know what I mean?
And I apologize to all the guys that as this season goes along, your significant others are going to realize that you can record the game rather than watch it live because season is pretty much over and they're going to start asking you to do stuff around the house during games. Man, I apologize in advance that Notre Dame didn't help you guys out.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, the significant others get really aggressive when they see Notre Dame's not as good as, you know, you thought they would be. And they start requesting going out on the weekends. Oh, you can watch the game later. It's not, just record it. Come back and watch it.
It's not important. Yeah. Well, you're not wrong about that now.
Yeah.
So guys. I do want to talk about kind of something here that we've kind of talked about, but I think it needs to be addressed a little bit further. When we talk specifically about the defense, I think that the troubling thing for me defensively is, I guess you could say it's kind of the whole team, but like the guys that did the most talking are the guys that are having the hardest problem. Wow. That's part one. Another thing too is they got to figure something out with the substitution problem. On one of the drives, Vince, I think I looked at you at one point in time on one of their scoring drives. I looked at you and I was like, there was at times at least 6 or 7 non-starters in the lineup on the field at one time.
Yeah.
And all those guys should play, and I'm a big fan of rotation, but
you're talking about
it's what we talked defensively.
Yeah.
It's what we talked about last year. Remember early against Florida State and Toledo, there are times where they would just do like mass defensive substitutions. And you can't do that. You can't put your whole second team in the game when it's 7-6, right? And then you're surprised they go down the field and score.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, because you're putting those kids in a bad situation.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely stuff that needs to get addressed. But at the end of the day, you can that's stuff that should not be costing you games, fellas. Because at some point in time, your best players got to step up and say, hey, man, enough of this. Right? I mean, Texas is out playing Alabama for almost 4 quarters. Games online, Bryce Young says, okay, fellas, I got this.
Yep.
Right? I got this, fellas. Right? And, okay, I get it. They don't have a Bryce Young, but they've got an Isaiah Foskey. They've got a Jason Adamiola. They've got a Cam Hart. You know, and it's like, who's going to be that guy? And then, you know, talk about like, so what's next, fellas? Okay. Like, number one at the top, head coach has got to let people know, nope. No, I mean, other than Brian Mason, who here's the thing. Let's talk about the special teams for a minute. I mean, who'd have thought that the star of the team outside of Tariq Bracy would be a walk-on transfer punter from Harvard? But John Sott's been an absolute dude in
He's
2
been
games.
A dude. He's been.
And remember, what was the biggest question mark we saw at practice?
Yeah.
Right. So here's the thing that's getting me, fellas. what we're seeing at practice is not turning out to be on Saturdays, and that shows me there's a severe lack of leadership, player wise, coaching wise. But you can't tell me that you couldn't fix things that were broken against Ohio State that came out and were the same thing. You can't fix those in week 2 because Brian Mason fixed all those. And there's no part of the football team that gets less time in practice in college football than special teams. And that's true for everybody.
And Marcus Freeman threw his buddy under the bus.
Who?
He threw Brian Mason under the bus during the week. He's like, hey, special teams wasn't good enough.
No,
I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm not saying it in a negative way.
I think there's only one way to take that, and that's a negative thing. I think what I would say is he was critical of a part of the team that had to get better. He was critical of all phases, and it got better. So I don't call that, to me, when I think of and this is a semantic thing, Vince, and I don't want to make it a semantic thing, but when I think of throwing someone under the bus, I just want you to clarify, I think that that's a negative. You shouldn't do that.
Oh, I want Marcus Freeman calling people out.
Okay, that's different. So
yeah,
so it was just a semantic thing. So we're on the same page.
So let me explain. So we know that Brian Mason is they go back deep with Marcus Freeman. It's one of the reasons he was hired. Now, obviously, he's also a very good coach. Okay. But what I liked about Marcus Freeman is that he wasn't afraid to call out that section of the team, even though that's his boy.
And what did he do?
He fixed it. That's what I'm saying. I want more of that. Okay. I want more of that. And we'll see how that goes. We'll see how those different parts respond and all of those different things. But man, it's just, they almost have to start at square one at this point with
oh no, it's not almost.
They do.
It's reset. Like, you know what this is, fellas? We're all not though this. You're playing in Nintendo, right? There was no saving when we were kids playing Nintendo.
Yeah.
You had to let the thing play for 2 days while you finished your season, your thing of Zelda. Or you're trying to get through your Major League Baseball, your RBI baseball season, right? You had to let that thing stay on, and then somebody kick it and start blinking. You're like, oh, you got to be kidding me! All right, so what you got to do when things weren't going well? Reset, right? It's time for a reset.
Absolutely,
because
top to bottom,
what you thought that, and look, this Marcus Freeman is not the first coach to start poorly, but the coaches who became champions that started poorly are the guys that said, we're not going to keep doing the same thing.
Not good enough.
I thought this was going to work. And you know who, you know what, Nate, you know what, here's the list of coaches who tried some, it didn't work and kept, and you know, they thought something was going to work and it didn't. Yeah. Here's the list of coaches who didn't have that problem. There aren't any. The great coaches will say, hey, you know what? This isn't working. We're fixing it. I've talked about this before with coaching hires when I'd be criticized Brian Kelly. Urban Meyer made terrible coaching hire in 2016 when he put Tim Beck and Ed Warner as the offensive coordinators. And it was a disaster. You know what he did after 1 year of that? You got to go. Good one hired Ryan Day. He had Everett Withers was his D coordinator for 2 years when they went 24-2, and the guy didn't get it done in big games. You know what he did? Sorry, bro. You got to go. Brought in Chris Ash. Won a title the next year. Right. So this is a challenge for Marcus Freeman. And y'all can say, oh, fire him after 3 games. That's nonsense. Let's be adults, right? He's not getting fired after 3 games, and he shouldn't get fired after 3 games. But if he doesn't step up and say, this has got to change, then it's going to keep happening. And that's ultimately how guys end up losing their jobs, right? Charlie Weiss never fixed what we all knew was broken. And so if you're Coach Freeman, there's no let's let the season play out thing. You just lost at home to Marshall. All bets are off, fellas.
Yeah.
And so we're going to sit down and have a conversation tomorrow face to face with every single coach. And it's going to be like, number one, this is the expectation. It's not getting met. We're going to talk about how it needs to get done. And then we're going to go do it. And you're going to take some input from your coaches, especially some of your vets. But what you've been doing has got to change. Like, no. I tried to be this guy. I tried to give y'all and let y'all be grown-ups, and I knew I'm a first-year coach, but you know what? It's now my hind parts are now on the line now.
Well, yeah.
Right? And so, some things are going to change around here. You know what I mean? And it's like y'all remember that old Sinbad skit, right? The afros and bell bottoms. He talks about as soon as you get married, some things got to change around here. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it's got to be, fellas. Yeah. Like, it can't just be let's do better at what we're doing, because what you're doing had you woefully unprepared to play Marshall. And you lost by 5, fellas. It wasn't that close. wasn't that close.
Oh no, that's a garbage touchdown at the end. I mean,
and if Marshall doesn't have a couple, as we said earlier, red zone stops and some of their play calling inside the 5 was like, what are you doing? You're trying to run the same stuff that you ran at the 40, but Notre Dame safeties are 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage now because you're at the 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so they were able to stop it. But it's about we're not practicing the same. Everything's changed, right, fellas? I mean, we're looking at our depth charts all over again. Like I said, if your name isn't Brandon Joseph, Tariq Bracy, or Michael Mayer, I mean, maybe there's somebody else. Howard Cross. He's been their best defensive lineman the last 2 games, in my opinion. I don't know if y'all agree with that. But outside of those 4 dudes, everybody, how bad do you want your job? Like, how bad do you want this, fellas? Right? And so that's on him. And that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm not happy about it, but now that it's here, I want to see how he responds to it. And he kind of said that after the game. I don't know if y'all heard that, but he was after the game. He was talking about like pretty much everything is got to get looked at now. Because Brian Kelly in 4-8, like he didn't at no point that season did Brian Kelly change what happened. Did he do something to change what happened? He wasn't going to fire Brian Van Gorder. He was forced to fire Brian.
That's accurate.
I'm not saying that Marcus Freeman's to fire anybody. We're not there yet. I lost a cow, and we may have some conversations. But here's the deal. What you do this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in preparation for Cal better not look anything like what you just did. That's a fact.
If Notre Dame loses to Cal, I'm going to need to borrow Sean's pacemaker.
And I'm just now banning everyone that uses the word woke in a sentence from here on out.
Stupid.
So anyway, we do need to get to some super chats. Okay,
Yes.
So let's get to some of these super chats, and those are going to lead us to some different conversations.
Oh,
okay?
no doubt about that.
Irish Chi-Town, I will say this first, Brian. What went wrong and how do we fix it? I think we've discussed some of the what went wrong, but we're gonna throw a little caveat. I'm not sure how it's going to look this week, but we're going to do some Cal prep this week, fellas. But we're going to do a lot of this stuff. We're going to have some shows this week. We're going to talk about specific things about that needs to change as we kind of go through this season and kind of get ready for sort of what's to come. So we will have those conversations. We will dive into some of those type of things during the week. There's no question about it. But tonight's just not the night we're going to do that. But I promise you that we will get to that here at some point in time this week. But tonight's just more of a venting session, a pointing out the things of what went wrong, and then we'll get into what to fix next. But I did want to let you know that. We felt people needed to vent tonight, and we needed to vent tonight. But we're definitely going to what I hate is people who just complain and then never offer solutions. Believe me,
I've seen a lot of that. Don't worry.
We'll have plenty of solutions to offer this week. But at the end of the day, it only matters if Coach Freeman can find them. And I do believe he can. But it's like his whole, I'm going to, be the head coach and let you guys do your thing. Nope. It's, it can't be that way. So we're just going to get kind of in order. A Coolin Turner. Thank you for the super chat, man. Seriously, guys, how bad is this going to get? Does it get any better? Does it get better anytime soon? I wish I had the answer to that, but I don't. Because at the end of the day, we don't know how Coach Freeman is going to respond to this. And honestly, I doubt Coach Freeman does right now. Because and I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't make any decisions about what he's going to do next tonight. Because you're doing it out of probably anger and frustration.
Right.
Like go home, think about it, talk to your wife, hug your kids, and then tomorrow you sit down with the people you trust the most and say, okay, this isn't okay, but let's figure out what needs to be here. You know
absolutely.
what I mean?
Yep.
And get to that right away.
And he needs to rethink some stuff. I mean, he just does. He just needs to and people are talking about, he's using Notre Dame as a first-year head coach and learning how to be a head coach and all of those different things. Part of that is accurate. Part of that statement is accurate. He is learning on the job. That is part of the chance that Notre Dame took by hiring a guy who's never been a head coach before.
Right.
I get that. I do get that 100%. And I will also say that going into this as a head coach, he was thinking to himself, hey, if we're going to be successful, we have to run the ball. We have to stop the run. That sounds awesome.
Sure.
That sounds great. That sounds head coachish. You know what I mean? Like that sounds
and it
awesome.
It is. That's still a very fundamental aspect of football.
But to be the head coach that he needs to be right now, he has to be able to look himself in the mirror, look his play, his idea in the mirror and be like, hey, you know what? This isn't working. Maybe this isn't the identity of this team.
Well, I would say,
Vince,
and Sean, here's what I think, and you tell me if you agree with this or not, or here's what the identity needs to be, but what we're doing to get there is not working.
Right. Okay, fair enough.
That to me is more of the thing that I would say, Sean, is I don't think that you need to say, okay, so what are you going to do? You're going to go out and be like a run and gun air raid team,
right?
Like run Mike Leach's offense next week. No, it's Notre Dame. That's who you need to be.
Correct.
But if my fifth-year guys don't want to be there, if my juniors don't want to be there, then I'm going to freaking put my freshmen in there, and I'm going to build that culture now because we are going to be a physical running football team.
And look,
and get it fixed.
They don't have to change their offense. Like, they don't have to change the scheme of the offense. They just need to change the plays that they're calling. That's the issue, right? They have plenty in the playbook that they can be successful with.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
But to me, you're not wrong, Vince. But to me, you're getting 3 steps ahead. And Sean, this is my point. And I'll kick it to you for a response, and you can rebut or not or agree or whatever. But the game plan and the play calling isn't going to change anything if your culture doesn't change, if how you're preparing doesn't change, if you're change. And so who kicked me? Vince is like, screw this.
No, it wasn't me. I promise.
Sean's like, Bryan, stop talking. It's my turn now. But
you're out.
There's 3 steps that need to get accomplished, fellas, before we get to the play calling changing. Because here's the thing. If you, Sean, agree or disagree with this, if the game plan and the play calling doesn't change a lick against Ohio State and Marshall, but this team is more disciplined, this team is more physical, this team is more fundamentally sound, this team has more maturity and responds better to adversity, Notre Dame's 2-0. Right or wrong?
It's a fair assessment. I agree with that.
So I'm not saying that the play calling and game plan doesn't need to change, but you can change the play calling all you want. There's a much deeper problem here than just play calling.
Agreed.
And game plan on both sides of the ball. Like, Al Gold's not calling plays to just give away the freaking flats.
Right.
But how the game plan was being installed was not getting that executed. And that's my problem.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And you just made me feel better because it makes me feel like, you know what? It's all bad right now, but it's correctable. And they can win games with this football team.
Right.
Right.
They can also keep losing a lot of games to this football team, too.
They can.
They're absolutely good at that. And that is a scary proposition already sitting at 0-2. So I think, Vince, going back to what you said about the run game, right? They almost, it's so funny, they might have to emulate and look at film and see what Marshall did and say, you know what, that we can be physical. That's how we can be physical. Not try and prove who we are, right? We don't have to get in 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2 and line up in 13 personnel to prove we're a physical team that can go get a first down.
Right.
We can do it the way we've been doing it. Right? And allow Tyler Buckner as a threat to open up the run game. And we can get first downs this way. It's almost like what we said, because I think Bryan has stepped out for a second. Find out who you are. Find out the things that you're really good at doing, right? Because you might have too much on the plate right now, right? The things that you can do really well and run those things into the ground until someone stops it.
Find the things you do really well and run them really well.
Well, absolutely. Well, if you're running them really well now, that's why you go to that consistently.
But that's the thing is, name me one thing they're doing really well right now consistently.
Well, I thought in the second quarter when they got to Tyler Buckner in the run game, as they spread Marshall out, that was something that they were doing really well.
Right.
And then I don't know why they didn't combine it with Tyler earlier, but then when they had that drive that went into Marshall's territory in the fourth quarter, they combined Tyler with Chris Tyree, which is another threat. And
but
it's like
the problem is, though, Sean, we saw it in this game. You can't run him 25 times every single game, because then what's going to happen? What happened today? He's going to get knocked out. You know what I mean? And so that, at the end of the day, that's the reality of it. You know what I mean? Like, so, and you're not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
My point is, you've got to be able to have more than that, right? But then part of that, so like what you're saying is, Sean, so yes, use Tyler to run more, but then build more stuff around that.
No,
like,
I'm not
for
saying
example,
run him more. I'm saying use him,
run him more effectively. Right. What I mean by running him more is, like, they'd have that one series where he'd carry the ball 6 times in one drive, and then we don't see it again for 3 drives. So make that. But then when you use that, remember the wheel route to Michael Mayer? Why did that work? Because you fake the power read.
Yeah.
That safety comes down, and Mayer just wheels it.
Yeah.
Because they're keying on Tyree on the jet and Buckner, right? And bam. And then, we don't see really that again. I mean, if you think about the stuff that's worked this year, it's been off play action of stuff with Tyler in the play action.
And when is he?
Right?
When is Tyler at his best? Shaw or Brian? We talked about this when you had to leave for a second. When is Tyler Buckner at his best throwing the football?
I mean, so far it's been when he's play action, movement, stuff like that. Right.
Yes. When he's on the move, when he's off
but
platform.
See, and that's the thing, is there's no purpose, Vince. It's because, like, one play they're in 12 and they're motioning and they've got an overload to the right, and they do this kind of, thing where they run a scheme and they get him on a perimeter, and he has that great throwback to Kevin Bauman, leading him down to a touchdown drive and all that kind of stuff. And then, and then it's kind of like, and then you go away from that, and then the next drive you're going empty and you're just dropping back and you're asking them to go full field reads and stuff like that. Like, you're putting too much on that right now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Agreed.
And that's the frustrating thing. I do want to get some more super chat. Sean O'Hara, man, thank you so much for the super chat, man. Chris Frederico has a bunch of super chats, man. We appreciate you very,
and I was
very much.
I was looking for questions, and I wasn't able to really to come up with any.
We appreciate you, Chris.
That's
I feel like every time we make a point that he likes, he gives us a super chat, so we appreciate it. We definitely appreciate you, Chris. That, or what might have happened? He's like sitting there like this with his elbow on the keyboard, and he just keeps accidentally hitting it. And if that's the case, I apologize. But we definitely appreciate you, Christopher, a ton, man. We really do. And I know nights like tonight can be real frustrating. Sean, again, I appreciate you too. I think Sean has a question later. Sean had another super chat later we'll get to where there was a question involved. Cool and Turner said, I sent that chat before the show. Thanks for the warning. My bad. It's all good, man. It's all good. Ian Johnson. J-Pat pulling off his jersey and having to be pulled back to do the alma mater by Chris Watt was a horrible show of leadership and by a captain, no less. And this is exactly what Sean was getting to. I just wanted to bring it up because it was a super chat from
No.
Ian.
I'm just saying, we had that conversation because it is a bad look. It is a bad look.
He lost his poise post-game, but that lack of poise didn't just manifest itself post-game.
Right.
That's the same lack of poise he had on that 3rd and 3 when the game, again, fellas, it was 15-12. They're at the Marshall 38-yard line, and it's 3rd and 3. You convert first down there. You go down the field and score. It's ball game.
Right.
Ball game. 3rd quarter. It's ball game. And your 5th-year senior captain didn't do what he needed to do, and then that after the game. You know what I mean? Like, I want guys to show emotion. I want to show emotion. When I first heard that he was fired up after, I was like, good. Then you hear the specifics of how that intensity manifested, and you say, this is a problem. This is a lack of discipline, and there's a lack of discipline in this football team. Lack of discipline in this football team, guys, majorly, and it's coming from your vets first and foremost. Your vets are the problem, not the young guys. Your vets, and that's a problem. United since 1878. Tommy Reese has some explaining to do.
You got some explaining to do.
This might be my favorite super chat right now from Hulk Strongest. Run Tyree.
No doubt.
Guys, the fact that Chris Tyree, no, he's not. Did you see him on the freaking kick return? Like, because Vince, you had said somebody said to me, like, at halftime, somebody said, so-and-so brought up the idea that maybe he's not healthy. I'm like, did you see the kick return?
Right.
Like, if he's not healthy, why is he returning kicks, guys?
Right. He's fine.
You know, like, it's just that this is the point. That right there is indicative of, number one, you're still trying to be something that you thought you were going to be during fall camp and you haven't adjusted yet. But even then, there's no explanation for why Chris Tyree has not been more of a focal point of this offense through 2 games.
Agreed.
I mean, he's had your most physical run so far on that
Yes.
3rd and 1.
On that yeah, absolutely.
You know, like, and I'm not saying don't play Audric and Logan Diggs. I mean, it's not Logan Diggs' fault that he has to force outside of him a slow development counterplay and there's nobody there to account for the safety. That's not Logan Diggs' fault.
Down. That was a 4th down play that he ran that. It was 4th and 1.
4th and 1. There you go.
Yeah. Yep.
And he put his shoulder down and said, "No, I'm getting this one." And, you know, it's Thistle Moore Pottery. I don't know what that name means, but that's
it might be
hilarious.
I love it. Shop.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Thistle Moore Pottery. I don't know if that's what your job, whatever. We'll give love to it. But I'm really not trying to overreact, but my goodness, this was bad. I haven't been a Reese fan, but I didn't see this on him. The lines were terrible. But look, at the end of the day, when you're the offensive coordinator, that's all falls on you, right? But the part of being an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator is knowing, here's where we're not playing well right now, and I got to play call around it.
Exactly. And look, here's the thing. He did that last year. We saw him play call around a not so great offensive line last year. Not seeing it this year. What's the difference? Like, where are we hurting here? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's also part of it for me, is I've seen him scheme around, you know, negative parts of the offense, and I'm not seeing it right now.
There was a play in the 2nd quarter, if I'm not mistaken, where they literally used the same blitz that Oklahoma State used, and Chris Tyree was in the game. And I'm saying to myself, yo, we're about to hit Chris just like we did in the Fiesta Bowl. But Chris stepped up and blocked instead of releasing. And I'm like, and I'm saying to myself, okay, is that the inexperience of Tyler not being able to recognize it like Jack Cohn did in preparation and knew, okay, yo, this is the check? Or is that just poor game planning or them from the sideline not alerting Tyler to, yo, we're going to this if you see this? But it was like it was the exact same formation that they wanted to come out in, and they went to the exact same blitz. They brought everybody, and if Chris Tyree had just angle routed or just gave the same release he gave in the Fiesta Bowl.
Can you explain to me why that's not something they're doing? Especially as aggressive as linebackers have been against Notre Dame?
I don't know.
Teams are really attacking with their linebackers downhill. There's got to be stuff you're doing to attack that, and they're not. I mean, and then the one time they do get Chris the ball, they throw him a little now screen, and he makes dudes miss and runs for 9 yards. It's just like
he had 9 yards.
It's not even like he's not doing things when you give him the ball. He's doing stuff with it. It's frustrating, and that's the preparation thing. That's where, like, look, you got to look at your game plan and say who we thought we were.
Yeah.
Is not who we are.
Yeah.
And like, we got
to go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Sean. No, you're good, man.
Oh, people in the chat are saying the line sucked. He had to block. No, that's a responsibility as a quarterback. Yo, they can't get to me before you release.
Right.
And all I have to do is drop it off to you. Everybody's coming. And the safeties
it's either on the quarterback or the offensive coaching staff or offensive game plan did not give him in the Fiesta Bowl. Jack checked to that, right, to your point, but he was coached to check to that.
Exactly.
We don't know if Chris has that option or not, and again, he may be. I mean, if Tyler has that option, we don't know. If he does, he needs to see that, and that's part of the like the stuff that bothered me about Tyler today. Like, people are ready to just give up on Tyler. Like, we probably agree on how he played today with those people, but like, I'm not kicking a kid to the curb after 2 games of his first year as a starter, right? Yeah. That stuff to me is correctable. That'll be correctable with experience and time. The stuff, the reason I focus so much on the veterans and on the coaching staff is because they don't have that excuse. They don't have the dude just made a 2nd career start. Let's chill out a little bit. But that's not the thing. It's like it's the stuff of the people that should be better, that should know better, that has me frustrated I guess is the nice way of saying it, fellas, is that. So we'd have another super chat from Sean O'Hara. Sean said Notre Dame was fire on defense at Ohio State. Marshall executed, but let's keep it real. Is this Marcus Freeman or Tyler Buckner, or do we need to go to Drew Pine? Look, Sean,
Drew Pine
I feel
did
you,
play
man,
today,
but
by the way,
Drew Pine is not the answer.
He did play today.
Because if you put Drew Pine in at quarterback, and I don't even bang on Drew, I love Drew, but if you put Drew Pine in at quarterback today, fellas, nothing changes because the only offense you had today was when Tyler Buckner was running or doing things off script. That was it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, your scheme wasn't doing things to get guys open. Your receivers were not doing well off the line. Hey, look, we banged Dell for it. I'm gonna bang Chancey for it. You know, like you can't correct this. I don't expect all of this stuff to be corrected in 2 games, but you got to show me some improvement after a couple games in an entire offseason, right? And that's the frustrating thing for me is we're not seeing that. Like simple things that veterans players should know. They should know better. You shouldn't have receivers stacked on top of each other 4 or 5 times in the game where you know they weren't coached to do that per se, but it wasn't coached for them not to do that either, if you guys get what I'm saying on that. Right? Like you're not telling them to do that, but it's happening and you're allowing it to happen. And you're not playing Tobias Merriweather, most likely. What the reason we always heard was, and I asked about this today with a couple people that I know, is he hurt? Is there something going on? Like, I don't want to get on this post-game show and bang on them for not playing him if this kid can't play. Right? I mean, that's fair. I mean, don't you think? Like to find out like if this kid's healthy enough to play or not. And I was told today that he's not hurt. He didn't play today because of any injury-related thing. He didn't play today because of coach's decision. Well, whoever's making that decision needs to make a different decision.
Yes.
I would rather go down with a kid like that, assuming he battles, than guys that just aren't like, oh, I'm covered. I'm just going to stop. And, oh, shoot, this guy's all over me. I'm going to quit on the play and let him pick it off and run it back for a touchdown. There's nothing that frustrates me more in football than that. And look, I love Drew Pine, but Drew Pine's not the answer, fellas. And they didn't lose this game because of Tyler Buckner, right?
Bingo.
He was a part of the reason they lost this game. There's a lot of people that you say this is why they lost that game. Are we saying that Tyler Buckner was Hercules and he's the only reason it was close? No, I'm not saying that because he did contribute to the loss just like everybody else did. But it's not that simple to just say it's the quarterback. There are times when it is the quarterback. Right now, after 2 starts, it's not the quarterback. Right? There's a whole lot of other things got to get fixed. And simply just changing quarterbacks doesn't fix that. It doesn't fix that at all. Because they still can't pass block and they still aren't run blocking. And so I'm not taking my dynamic athlete off the field unless he's hurt.
It was the only reason they scored.
Unless he's hurt. I mean, if Drew starts next week, it's because Tyler's hurt.
Correct.
And we don't know his status. By the way, we have a lot of people ask. We don't know his status. Coach Freeman did not know it after the game. We'll probably find out more tomorrow.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we don't have another press conference with Marcus Freeman until Monday.
Right?
So we're not going to know anything until then.
Right. Rob Thidoff said, IB staff, as bad as it was, if the D holds on that 94-yard drive, we probably win. But the D line failed like the offense. Of those 94 yards, 64 on the ground. And this is what I was saying earlier, fellas.
Not wrong.
It's the same thing at Ohio State last week. If you just don't let them go 95 yards,
right?
Like somebody step up and make a play, please.
Right. Again, they had a third and neither of 9.
Those, right. And neither of those plays, neither of those games were just blown assignment where a guy goes 80 yards. Right. This wasn't Dex against Virginia Tech in 2018. This was methodical, missed tackles. And we'll dive into this tomorrow because I want to watch it more. And this is more of a upon further review thing. But like, how many times tonight did we see just the A gaps being vacated schematically, meaning somebody was screwing up? And I got to tell you, of all the position groups, like the defensive line's not playing to its potential. It hasn't been bad. It just hasn't been good. The linebacker play has been
speak on it.
Bad. It was inconsistent last week, and this week it got worse against Marshall. I mean, they were like, if they didn't call for a linebacker fire, the linebackers weren't coming. They were catching. And if there's one thing that this team needs to work on and practice this week, for the love of God, please work on block destruction this week. Because you can't cry about getting held when you're not doing what you need to do to try to get block destruction. You know what I mean? Like on the D-line level, on the linebacker level, and on the secondary level. Like the ability to get off blocks today was atrocious. And there was no group that was worse than the linebacker. I mean, they played hard, you know, and all, but they didn't. They were They didn't look like they knew what they were doing. They were thinking. I don't know what it was, but they weren't playing. I mean, and here's the thing. You said, well, these guys aren't good. Look, if JD Bertrand simply played right now like he was last year, he'd be a better player. That's a problem. You know what I mean? Like, it's a problem, fellas. So linebacker play's got to get good in a hurry. And this is the thing is, like, I can't stand when talented kids are sitting on the bench when veterans are playing poorly. You know what I mean? Like, that's what drove me nuts about Joe Schmidt 2015. It's like, hey, he's a smart kid, but he's not playing well. I don't care how smart he is. He's not playing well. Well, this guy doesn't know hold defense. Then have less defense and put in the better player. You know what I mean? Right? Okay, if Joe's a great kid, he's not playing well. If you don't want to put in Lyles Morgan, put in Jarrett Grace. Because whenever Jarrett Grace got it, even after the injury, when Jarrett Grace got a chance to play, he still played well. You know what I mean? So it's a frustrating thing to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, and that's the thing is somebody step up at the linebacker level and make a play. And they were a big part of the reason that they were getting out leveraged all today in the flats. They were a big part of that, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but they were a big part of that to me.
Well, that big third down conversion on the last drive from inside their own 10. Maris got out leveraged, and there was no outside rush to get into the quarterback's face on the bootleg. It's like the whole line just went horizontally. No one came upfield.
Right.
And played their position on the edge and then rushed the court. It was like it's 38. All you have to do is be fundamental and stay in your gaps. You're going to get the run. And then you react to the quarterback. But that was all day. Like you said. It was all day.
It wasn't just that play. Like, honestly, if it was just that play, you coach it up. Like, guys, hey, look, we'll just coach it up. We'll coach it up. We'll get it fixed. It's game 2. We'll get it fixed. But that stuff was happening constantly. And then a week later, you can't get it fixed against Marshall. Because what was one of the questions that you and I talked about yesterday, Sean? Or, like, we need to see how Coach Freeman is – how Coach Golden is when he's got a week to prepare his football team for an offense. We don't know what that looks like. Right. Well, I thought they were woefully unprepared. And Marshall did some stuff today that they didn't show on film last week. And they're really like the quarterback movement. Like, they let a pretty immobile quarterback just walk for 6 yards because they lost contain. It's just like, what are you doing? It was bad. It was bad. Mary Kay Queen with super chat. Thank you very, very much, Mary. Appreciate it. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth with a super chat. Appreciate that very, very much. Craig D. Thank you for your super chat. A running back that worked as at a lumberyard last year outrushed our running backs. They had more toughness and heart than us. Sad. Does anybody want to disagree that Marshall played today? Here's your chance, fellas. If you want to disagree that Marshall played with more heart today, I want to hear it now.
It's not just the running back. He had gaping holes to run through.
Yeah.
I
think the point is like the kid played, like he'd put his shoulder down when he needed to and run over somebody.
100%. Right. And that you could say that about every guy that had a white uniform on today. So,
yeah,
no doubt.
So, Sean, you want to push back on that notion that Marshall had more heart and toughness than Notre Dame today? Is Sean with us? Did he get frozen up?
No, he looks depressed, but
yeah, I think he got frozen up because he hadn't blinked in a couple minutes. So I think that was a little bit different than just him being depressed. I think that froze up a little bit. So we'll get Sean back here in a minute, I'm sure. Let's get to some more of these questions, fellas. So here we go. Here, Sean's back now. So Sean, we thought you were just for a second there, we just thought you were sad because you weren't responding. Then I realized you hadn't blinked in a while, and we knew you'd frozen up. But I'll give you your chance before we move on. Do you want to argue with Craig here that that Marshall was not the tougher team that played with more heart today? Do you want to argue with that?
It's easy to, that's kind of, I don't want to call it low-hanging fruit, but, that's an easy outcome to pull from just looking at the stats and numbers. I'm going to be honest, I thought Tyler was really tough today.
Yeah. There were some players here and there.
Yeah, there were players on the
Michael Mayer, Tariq Bracy. Yeah. Right.
But I think as an underdog coming into Notre Dame Stadium, Coach Huff had his team in the set that was needed to win a game.
somebody I was critical of last week,
Mm-hmm.
and Ryan Roberts was as well, that I thought played hard today, was Ramon Henderson. We questioned his I thought. Now, he had a couple mistakes, like leverage mistake, but, we questioned his body language. And I mean, honestly, we chose the word body language because we weren't liking what we saw from him. We were trying to be pleasant. But you know what? He came out and played harder today. I mean, Vince, I thought Maris was the one on that fire that blew that play up, and it was on that third down, and it was Ramon that blew that up. So kudos to him, because that's what you want to see. Like, hey, you don't play well. Go ahead, Sean.
He played Bryan, you talked about it. They're not playing aggressive.
Right.
And this makes me think about all the talk I heard over the summer about how smart they are and how they're picking up on so many things. And it's like, yo, all right, trying to be exotic and all of that with like a full summer of preparation for Ohio State, showing different coverages to CJ Stroud. I get it. This is Mark.
Right.
Like, line up, know your gaps, know your responsibilities, and go play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go play. It's what's the call? Are we in zone? Are we in man? Let's go play and let's get after it. Because it's not like they can't. Marshall didn't come in with this exotic game plan that just took a half to figure out.
It's a game plan we all said they were going to come in with, fellas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, it's not about the game plan. Is it the one I would have had? No. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They just didn't adjust off of that game plan when it wasn't working. That's the issue. Or one of the issues.
Right.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but speaking of leadership, after Marshall took the lead the last touchdown drive, sideline, and Isaiah Foskey was over there berating the defense. And I just chuckled to myself, like, the nerve.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, you didn't show up.
Best way to show leadership is to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, you didn't show up that entire drive.
Yeah.
But you're over here screaming, and then you hear about Jared Patterson, and it's like, these are the guys that came back.
Yeah.
It's like, are you here to lead, or are you here for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Like, makes me wonder, like, are you here for yourself, or are you here to lead?
And if you are here to lead, do you understand what that means?
Yes.
And that's the thing too, Sean, is because some guys are well-meaning, but they don't know how to lead. And that's an issue that I have. I think Isaiah Foskey wants to be a leader. I think Jarrett Patterson wants to be a leader.
Yeah.
But they're not showing leadership right now. And that's my thing. And leadership comes first and foremost with do. You want to know why the players that played at Notre Dame in 2016 and 2017 thought Quentin Nelson was a great leader?
Yeah.
Because more than saying, he did. Alex Bars would say this. He's like, it wasn't even about Quentin getting in our face. It was about Quentin set the standard for how to work and how to prepare. And if you didn't meet it, then he'd get in your face.
Yeah.
So he got in your face because he was first doing.
Yeah.
And so he could say, hey, I'm doing this. Where are you? And that's an issue for me. And that's what we need to see. So look, I don't want to hear you talking about it. I want you to be about it.
Right.
And Notre Dame has a lot of dudes that have been talking about it this offseason. They need more dudes that are being about it. And right now they don't have nearly enough guys. And I don't want to say any guys because there are some. If everybody else was playing with the heart Tariq Bracy played with, if you know what I mean, the toughness that some other kids would play with, then they'd be okay right now.
Yeah.
But they're not getting that. And I'm not saying, we don't need to
quantify
that.
Well, my thing is when you don't show up and make plays, I know how I am. Like, I played varsity as a freshman, and I was a leader by the time I got to a junior.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're screaming at me and you haven't produced as a leader, I know how I'm viewing that. I know in my mind, I'm like, dude, you need to shut up right now. Because what you're saying right now is holding absolutely zero weight with me. It'd be different if you were out there playing your tail off and we were the ones blowing it. Now I can receive that. And don't wait until they scored a touchdown. If you feel that way, you could have said this in the huddle in the middle of the drive.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Whatever you felt, you could have made a difference in the middle of the drive.
Yes.
And said, don't wait until the sideline to be screaming at us. on the sideline, and we're just looking up at you like, okay, I don't care. Berate, scream. Looks like, dude, you haven't done anything as a leader in the first 2 weeks, in my opinion, to reserve the right to act like that. Because you're thinking that's leadership, and that's not the leadership that's needed right now from you.
Yeah.
We need a different type of leadership. We need you to be quiet over here and loud on the field. And
Well,
that's what we're not getting.
And I'll tell you what, Sean, I at first somebody mentioned in the chat a long time ago, like hours ago, that they just need to take off all the C's. I don't think that that's a terrible idea. I'm just going to say it. I don't think that's a terrible idea right now, because I think right now this team lacks leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And go earn it. Let's see who's going to step up and be a leader at this point, because right now this team doesn't have really, the goals that they set forth for themselves. Some of those goals are gone.
Yeah.
What is the leadership going to do at this point? Who is going to step up and be those leaders? With Patterson walking away, trying to get off the field, with Foskey, exactly what we just were talking about. Those are supposed to be your captains and your leaders. I don't know that I see it, to be honest with you. So maybe you don't take them all away. Maybe you just take them all away. I don't know what, is that overreacting? Maybe. I don't know. Obviously, that's not going to solve everything. But I think this team lacks leadership right now. I do.
And you know what? Let's be fair for a second. These are two guys that specifically came back to have a chance at winning a national championship.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And they recognized in the moment today
that it's gone.
That all of the work that they put in is gone. It's done 2 games into the season. But as a leader, you have to be able to control your emotions.
Right.
And lead in a better way.
No doubt.
I empathize with the emotions.
Right.
Totally.
So can every person in this chat right now.
Yes.
There's
and
no doubt.
Empathize with
No
that.
doubt.
And I can't even imagine the amount of work that went into you making the sacrifice to forego the NFL and come back for the purpose of winning a national championship or having a shot to do so. And for that dream to be gone 2 games into the season, that's a jolt. That's a heck of a jolt but you're supposed to be the one that can handle it on this team and show the young guys this is how we respond. I wasn't happy. To Bryan, before we came on the show, I wasn't happy with Marcus Freeman's demeanor.
Yeah.
With 5 minutes left on the sideline. I felt like he should have been the one clapping when Marshall went up. Like, it's okay. We got it. He was just standing there with almost a defeated look. Like, and I'm like, yo, you can't do that.
Right.
So there's some self-reflection that I believe Marcus Freeman mentioned in his press conference. I'll have to watch it because I didn't get a chance to watch it. But there's some self-reflection and self-inventory that needs to be done by everyone in that building tonight. Everyone in that building tonight needs to have self-reflection and self-inventory, and then come back together with the mindset that we're about to get this right.
Yep.
We're about to get this right, because it can't go on like this.
Sean, part of me wonders if maybe I don't even want to go there. We'll talk about it after the show because I'm just trying to figure out, like, with some things I've heard. Yeah, we'll chat about it later because I don't want to put something out there and then we'll talk about it later. That's all me. Hulk Strongest changed the linebackers. I appreciate the super chat, man. Again, it's just not as simple, guys, as look, here's the deal. It's not as simple as just change players. I mean, there changes need to happen. Tobias Merriweather needs to flip and play. I mean, Chris Tyree needs to play.
Yeah.
I'm putting Junior Chalamaka, give him a shot. Let him play. Like, there's some dudes that need to play.
Yeah.
But it's not that. Like, that fixes it to a degree. But you don't just make those changes and then all of a sudden everything is better.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality. That doesn't change anything. it goes much deeper than that.
Yeah.
Much deeper than that. And so it can't just be that. That can't be the coaching staff's only thing that they do. Let's just trade out a couple players.
All right.
Because this is first and foremost on you. You, every single coach right now, I mean, for this week, not named Brian Mason, you did not get your team prepared to play this week, right? I mean, you didn't. And that's got to be corrected. And it's not just players aren't, change a player here and there. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't get to the heart of the problem.
Right. Exactly.
Changing the game plan, fellas, does not get to the heart of the problem. Changing the play calling does not get to the heart of they are symptoms of the disease. That's it. Right? And it's kind of like there's medicines out there that can treat the symptoms of a disease, but you still have the disease. Right?
Exactly.
And that's what we say is there's much more here than just that. And that's got to get corrected. Christopher Galloway, Christopher, thank you very, very much for your super sticker. We appreciate you. Logan Trailer with a super chat. Thank you very much, Logan. Love what you guys do. It seems like our staff is scared to let our offense loose. Would love to see Tyree utilize more. Tough day for Irish Nation.
Yep, agree with everything there.
And honestly, I don't even think it's about let the offense loose. I think they tried to be aggressive today. I mean, it took a lot of shots down the field. It wasn't about a lack of aggressiveness today.
Yeah.
It just was. There's just a lack of rhyme or reason. Like this move didn't set up that move. This thing didn't set up that thing.
Right.
I mean, double moves were not banned from college football. If I watched Marshall play, and we talked about this in our shows this week, the Marshall corners are going to be aggressive, and when they're not aggressive, they're going to try to bait you. And we talked about what they did at Norfolk State guy. So you know what I'm doing early in the game when I see a zero. Because if you see zero coverage, I'm running a hitch and go or a sluggo or something. And then you know what they're not going to do? Squat on hitch routes the rest of the
Exactly.
game. Like, we saw that. Like, we talked about that. So what we're not doing like this, hindsight 2020 type of thing, fellas. We're not saying, hey, well, this is what they should have done now that things didn't work out. This is all stuff we talked about during the week of preparation when we watched their film.
Yep.
We said, and it's also about knowing who you are. And I think this is the biggest problem that Notre Dame has right now. They don't know who they are. They don't know what their true strengths are, what their true weaknesses are. If you not watched how teams defended you last year, did you not watch how Ohio State defended you? Did you really not think that Marshall was going to come in and dare you to beat them throwing the football?
Yeah.
Like, did you not really think that? Did you not think they were going to be aggressive when that's what they do on film? And that's also how teams defended you. Did you not think that maybe like a wheel route might have been good earlier in the game, or a hitch and go might not have been good earlier in the game, or faking a bubble screen and throwing a go route might not have been better earlier in the game because you knew you're going to get that? Because here's what that does early, fellas. If you beat them early with that, they're not squatting on those things in the fourth quarter.
Exactly.
That's what football coaching is. I know they're going to play me this way, so I'm going to come out and do something against it early. So again, you can trade out all the players you want. You can. There's a preparation problem that needs to be addressed here too, fellas. And part of preparation is you got to know who you are. And I don't think this football team knows who they are right now. And I think that's especially true on the offensive side of the ball. They got to figure out who they are and then address it. And then part of that will be, fellas, personnel changes. That will be part of it. Needs to be part of it. You lost to Marshall, guys.
Right.
Like, it's all on the table. Connor Grant with the super chat. Thank you, Connor. Tyler Buckner is staring down his receivers. He's young, but that's a coaching issue. That issue definitely came up in practice. He does it at times, and at times he doesn't. But see, here's the thing. When Tyler's on the move, his vision is a lot better about seeing things. We've seen him do this now a couple games in a row off play action and stuff like that. You got to use that to your advantage. There's no doubt. Alex Udell with a super chat. Thank you very much. Where the heck are the young guys? Meriwether, Colley, Jr., Tuilamaka, Sneed. Buckner is terribly inaccurate. Tommy Reese ain't it, fellas. Thanks for all you do. Some of that I agree with. Some of that I don't. At this point in time, some of those guys got to play, or at least get a chance to play.
Absolutely.
At least in practice. Hey, look, man, you're not getting it done. So so-and-so, you're going to get a couple extra reps this week. So let's see what you do. And part of it is not just, guys, about putting a young guy in, but when you get reps to a young guy in practice, that's a bit of a wake-up call to the vet.
Absolutely.
And you want to see how he responds to that, Sean. Like we all played football here, right?
Yeah.
Sean, when you were a senior in high school, if you had a bad game and the next week your coach went out and said, hey, you know what? We're going to let this young buck who's working hard get a couple of your reps this week. You could respond to that one of two ways. That's bull crap. I deserve those reps. Or you say, okay,
Right.
all right. You want to try to take my reps away? I'm going to show you. Watch how I prepare this week. So if anything, that's what I want to see. Hey, you don't want to go make plays. You don't want to fight for the ball in the fourth quarter. Hey, I mean, look, I can put Tobias in there and do that. You know, if you're worried about Tobias not knowing the offense, I mean, he can definitely get blocks in the backs and not compete for the ball. We know, he's a freshman. I want guys that are going to compete. And and when you get put on the sideline, that's going to tell me a lot about who you are and what your compete level is. I want to see what you do when you get back out there. Like how do you respond when you get called out? I remember, Sean, early in Lewis Nix's career, he was redshirting. This was 2010. He was redshirting that year.
I remember that.
And one of my favorite stories, because he was so out of shape, he was so overweight. But there was a play where he was getting blocked. He's on scout team. I don't think he was getting blocked, and he kind of went and sulked on the sideline, and Brian Kelly yelled at him. He just yelled at him to get back out there, and kind of challenged him, his pride a little bit. On that next play, Lewis went out there and was going against Braxton Cave, big, strong kid. He took Braxton Cave and lifted him off of his feet and drove him back into the quarterback and put him on the ground. So, okay, this kid's going to be a player. He ain't there yet. Right? But he got challenged, and he said, okay, you want to challenge me? I'm going to show you something. I want to see some dudes, some veterans especially, get challenged this week, either verbally, one-on-one. I'm not into the whole showing a guy up in front of the whole team thing, but you bring him into your office and you let him know, like, and then if he goes out and doesn't practice, okay, then, hey, I gave you a chance to fix it, and you're still acting like that. Yeah. And I want to see how guys respond in their feelings if I'm taking some of your snaps away. Why are you taking my snaps away? Did you watch yourself play this week?
Right.
I want you to watch yourself play, and you tell me if you think I should or shouldn't be taking some of your snaps away. How do you respond to that? I want to see, because I want to see, you got to do something to challenge these players. The coaches and the players need to be challenged. And how do you respond to it? That's what I want to see. Kirk, D.A. Anderson Fitness, as a Notre Dame alum, this was bad. We don't have a good quarterback. Defense has stacked the box against us. The OC isn't using the players in the best way. Our defense and a hangover from Ohio State game. Am I wrong? I mean, some of it I don't agree with. Some of it I do. I think Notre Dame has a quarterback.
I do too.
He's just young and developing. Well, he may be out for a while. We'll find out on Monday. But
and I also just
what I've heard so far. Yeah.
To be
I mean, but again, look, some of the things you can say that true, Vince, but the play call to get Lorenzo or Braden Lindsay open on a go route, that's not putting him in a bad. He was put in a position to make a play and he didn't make it.
No, I agree.
I mean, some of this is Tyler's got to make more plays. It's just I'm going to have a little bit more leniency, Sean, for a guy that's making a second career start than a fifth-year senior who wants to throw a temper tantrum after the game.
Once again, the team around Tyler Buchner is not playing well enough.
Right.
Like, you could have won at Ohio State with the way Tyler Buchner played that game. The people around him didn't play good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And he missed some plays. He absolutely missed some opportunities and missed some plays. Sure. But there are also some that if they pick up a blitz or block a little bit better, he probably hits. And the game has changed. So even if it's Drew Pine, the rest of the offense has to pick him up. He can't carry this offense.
No.
He's not Bryce Young. He's not C.J. Stroud. The offensive line has to play better. Your running backs have to play better. Your wide receivers have to play better. Your coaches have to coach better.
Yep.
Everyone has to come together and be better to make sure that Drew Pine has the best opportunity to lead this team to victories.
Yep.
If he's the one. And if it's not him, Tyler Buchner, it's the same thing. Everybody else surrounding these quarterbacks have to be better. They just flat out have to be better. There's no way to say it other than that. They flat out have to be better. Yeah. Marcus Freeman has to be better.
Yeah. Yep.
He has to do everything you just said, Brian. He has to challenge his coaches tomorrow.
It always has to start there.
Always starts with the coaches. And he has to transfer into them. We got to challenge these guys this week. Stay on top of them. Give some reps to these young guys. Everything's open.
Mm-hmm.
Competitions are open. And we'll see who really wants it.
Yeah.
That's what we're about to find out.
Yeah.
Who wants it?
And you have to.
Yeah.
You have to. You can't not do that. There's in no universe can it be well, we're just going to clean some stuff up. Like defensively, there's some of that. There's a lot of cleaning up that's needed on defense, but there's a couple guys that need
points, right? The defense gave up 19.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And there was also there was another interception that led to a shorter field too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But defense did not play well. There's a lot of cleaning up stuff that needs to be done on defense. The defense and the offense are a little bit of a different universe than me right now for my criticism, but there are a couple players on defense that are getting the offensive treatment for me because even though the unit may be playing better, there's a couple guys that's like, there's a couple guys we're not using correctly. If you're looking at it, we need to use them a little differently. Like, like there's a couple guys that need to play better, but there's some guys that are just like, I don't know what you're doing out there, but that's not the dude that you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's, but as a whole, defensively, just clean some stuff up.
Yeah. Right.
Clean some stuff up. And that be correctable. To me, offensively, there's a much deeper problem that goes beyond just the personnel. And that's a little bit different for me. Josh Phillips says, seems like Harry has some bad habits to break. Yes, he does. And it's up to him to do it. Yeah, the problem is that we haven't seen any progress. It's one thing to say, hey, look, there's still some flashes of the old offense. But if we're being honest, look, the reality is I saw no improvement in the first two games from the offensive line than what we saw last year.
Exactly.
They're not worse
than they weren't worse than they were last year,
but they're not better.
They're not better. Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, look, there's nobody safe today from criticism except Brian Mason. I mean, we said at the beginning.
And Sott. He had a
I'm
good
coaching.
Game.
I was talking coaching.
I thought you were talking
about in that particular instance, I was talking coaching. Well, no, you're good, man.
Yeah, they had a good return, decent punt return, block punt.
Yeah.
Their kick returns weren't, I mean,
and Sott was not as inconsistent as he was last week either. I mean, he got better. He was good last week. A little, couple inconsistent, but no, he was good all game. Good all game.
Yeah, and his average won't be great, but he was busy pinning them deep most of the game. I mean, yeah.
Agree. Antonio Seabrook with a super chat. Thank you, Antonio. People get mad at Freeman. I believe Reese is more of a problem. Look, at the end of the day, I understand that, and I don't disagree. But at the end of the day, the head coach is all ultimately responsible, right? That's the standard we held for Brian Kelly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the standard we're going to hold for Marcus Freeman, and that's how it should be. Whether you like or dislike a person personally, the standard is the standard. And, it's not – it's Brian Van Gorder's fault. Well, who hired Brian Van Gorder? Right? Who let him do the things he did? It was Brian Kelly, right? Who hired Jeff Quinn and Dell Alexander and then kept them around to do the things they were doing? Right. That was on Brian Kelly. That's what we hammered him for. I'm not saying Tommy Reese is Brian Van Gorder or those guys, but the reality is it's got to get better. And so, yes, Tommy Reese has to do better. You don't think Tommy Reese knows that? Do you think Tommy Reese is sitting there in the room like, man, I called a great game. These freaking players can't execute.
Right.
I hope not, but I don't think he is. But knowing that and then fixing it are two different things. But at the end of the day, fellas, Tommy Reese isn't 0-2. Marcus Freeman is.
Right.
And that's the thing is, like, he's got to be the one that figures out what's going to happen next. He needs to be the one that sits down and says, hey, what are we going to do this? Here's what I think needs to happen, and here's what is going to happen. That's where I'm at, fellas. Sean Williams with a super chat. Thank you, Sean. Hey, guys, relatively new to the channel. Love the show.
Welcome.
Thank you, Sean.
Welcome,
this may be a bit hyperbolic, but my entire life, Notre Dame has done nothing but disappoint me. I'm 25. Yep. If you're 25, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Can they ever realistically return to a dominant program? Yes, they can.
Realistically, yes.
But will they? That remains to be seen. There's a question down there about recruiting that we'll get to that kind of is relative to that. But yes, they can. Will they? I don't know. I mean, if I'd have told you 10 years ago that Clemson is for about a decade is going to be the premier team behind Alabama and going to win 2 titles, you'd have been like, you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Like you would have.
Yeah.
But they are. And that, that's just kind of where it's at. I mean, I grew up with Ohio State always being good, but never elite. It wasn't until Jim Tressel showed up that happened, So, can it happen? Yes. Will it?
I don't know.
Remains to be seen.
Doesn't feel good today.
There's nothing inherent about Notre Dame that keeps it from winning.
Correct.
That's the thing I disagree with a lot of people on. It's up to the people that are there to. Is it harder? Sure. Never said it wasn't, but there's nothing about Notre Dame that says you can't win there. Maybe harder, but people need to do a better job and make better decisions and all that.
This game was very reminiscent of Toledo last year.
Yeah.
Toledo came in and just out-coached, outplayed, out-hustled, and Notre Dame made a play late in the game. They made a play offensively. They made a play defensively. And everybody kind of just said, okay, we got through that Toledo game. Like, we didn't like it. It shouldn't have been that close, but we got through it. The only difference in that game and today, the offensive, defensive guys didn't make plays in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And I know it's a broken record going all the way back to the Fiesta Bowl, but until they get it corrected, it is what it is.
I mean, look, last year, Jack stepped up and made plays in the fourth quarter he needed to.
Multiple times.
Today, Tyler didn't. He's got to get better there. Last year, the defense made some mistakes, but you know what? There were enough times where they would step up and make a play in some of those games where they would make it a win. And this team's not doing that right now. Sean, that's a great point. This looked a lot like the Toledo game last year.
Like the Toledo game.
And Toledo took a fourth quarter lead, and what Notre Dame's offense do? Responded right back down the field.
Yeah.
Didn't happen today. And who was one of the players that helped Notre Dame put that game away or help? It was Chris Tyree. Just want to remind people of that. Yeah, just want to throw that out there. Matt 2011 GT. If I'm Marcus Freeman, the first thing I'm doing after firing Tom Rees is benching every upperclassman that hasn't shown up. All of them. I don't care if we have had to field all walk-ons. At least they would be trying and playing hard. I get the sentiment. I do. It's not practical, and I don't think it's overly helpful to just do that. I think that every veteran needs to be challenged severely. And when I say severe, I'm not talking about like getting in their face and MFing them in front of the whole team. That's not what I'm talking about. There's no better way to challenge a guy that's a veteran, Sean, than to say, if you don't play better, I'm going to find somebody else.
Yep.
And you can do it respectfully and in a private meeting or whatever the case may be. But that's how it needs to go. That's how it needs to go. And if you don't change it, then that's what's going on. Sean O'Hare with super chat. Sean says, disagree. We have no offense. Tyler Buckner cannot throw, and Drew might be a refresh. We should have recycled him in the first half. TB has no accuracy. Again, we can agree to disagree. That's fair. But Drew had a chance to move the ball, and he hit a linebacker right in the chest, guys. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not banging on Drew. I mean, it's just like he didn't play well either. But, there's so many different things. And yeah, Tyler needs to make some of those plays. Will he? I think he will, but he needs to start making them. I mean, you can't go through a whole season of him, and if he's out for a while, which, I'm getting some things from a couple people, we'll kind of see how it goes. But, I mean, end of the day, he's got to make those plays.
Yep.
Simple as that. But you don't just give up on a kid that has his ability after 2 games. I don't agree with that. Matt 2011 GT with another super chat. Thank you. Next, due to the discipline issues, every single one of my coaches is on probation with 3 weeks to reapply to keep their job. This was unacceptable. Again, I get the emotion behind all that. There's different ways to do it. That's not as severe.
What if they don't step up? Then you've got no coaches the rest of the season.
Right. But my point is, like, I get Matt's sentiment. I do. It just practically I get where he's coming from. Practically speaking, you can't really do that, all the things he's suggesting. But I think the sentiment behind what Matt is saying is something I can get on board with, guys, which is if you're a person in a position of leadership, you're accountable for this. And if I'm Marcus Freeman, I'm getting in front of my coaching staff and I'm saying, this is the mistake I made. I did this, but I'm fixing it. You can either be part of the solution or you can be part of the problem. And if you're part of the problem, I'm going to find somebody else that's going to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
Right. Simple as that. Simple as that. But every person is responsible for this from a coaching standpoint, and that includes Marcus Freeman.
It starts with Marcus Freeman. Down. And guess what? They're not going to fire him after 2 games. Okay?
Well, that's not even like if anyone's saying that, Vince, like that's an ignorable comment.
It's all
really
over the chats. And
but that's fine. I get it. Just ignore that. Ignore that. That's not a realistic thing. Just ignore it. And we'll focus on things that are more practical. Caleb Collins says, who is at fault? Tyler Buckner, Tommy Reese, or Marcus Freeman? All of the above, plus about 20 other names.
Right.
Michael Burke, thank you for the super chat. Michael, thank you for sharing in the venting and frustration. Yeah, well, that's what the post game show is supposed to be about. And we had a guy unsubscribe from the site this week and say he's never going to watch it. He said, "You do a great. I've been listening to you for a long time, but I've always thought you're professional. But after the Ohio State game, I'm not going to listen anymore and unprofessional." Like, do you not know what the post game show is all about? Like. Oh, and I didn't watch the upon further review. Oh, so you were mad that we didn't give an analysis and a breakdown of the game, but you watched the show that's literally designed for that. The post-game show is meant to be in a gut reaction to a game. And if you don't get that, that's fine. I get that, but whatever. I don't care. Go Irish with a super chat. Thank you very much for that. I'm good with all the frustration of this analysis. But let's talk about going forward. If you were guest coaching this week, what is one of the most important things you would work on correct this week in order to right this ship? So we'll talk a lot more about this tomorrow. I do appreciate the super chat. We'll talk a lot more about this tomorrow. But I think this super chat was put in a while ago, right? So this is before some of the things we talked about. So this super chat's from over an hour ago. So we've talked about some of those things, but again, there's personnel changes I would make. If Tobias Merriweather doesn't play over 20 snaps next week, I'm going to lose it, right? If Chris Tyree is not a focal point in the offense next week, I'm going to absolutely lose it. Okay. If there's personnel changes to make, guys, but at the end of the day, this is gut check time. Sean, you've said this multiple times tonight. The biggest change for me, biggest thing to correct is I am challenging people's pride this week. Yep. And the people that I'm going to go to battle with moving forward are the people that respond to that in the correct way. Doesn't mean you can be mad at me for doing that. That's cool. I'm okay. As a matter of fact, I kind of want that. I want you to be a little pissed at me. But how does your being pissed off manifest? Are you going to go pout in the corner? Or you can say, oh, okay. You don't think I can do this? Watch me. Cool. But as long as you're doing what I'm trying to get you to do, I don't care if you pout. I mean, I don't care if you are mad at me. But if you pout, then I don't want you. I don't want to be in a foxhole with you. I don't want to put my reputation and my coaching future and my pedigree, and I'm talking about this from assistant on down. I don't want to put that on you because you don't have what it takes to right the ship. So anyway, Sean O'Hare with another super chat. Sean, thank you very much. It's not too much, guys. He needed to have better vision and lead. He did, and this is not working. So what do we do now? Quarterback 20 series lacking production. I mean, Sean, you can keep saying the thing over and over. And guys, we were dancing around Tyler Buckner cannot see downfield. Where do we go from here? Deep. It's 2 games, Sean. We're just not going to agree. I respect your opinion. I appreciate all the super chats, but I'm not going to agree that just changing the quarterback is the problem or that you give up on a guy. I could point to a lot of quarterbacks that didn't look great after their first couple starts. I could point to quarterbacks that didn't look great after their first season. You know what I mean? But it's the reality is that you have to keep battling, and he's going to get there. He's going to get there.
Unfortunately, we don't have Deshaun to come in or Trevor Lawrence to come in as a freshman.
Right.
We don't. The program is where it is right now.
Right.
Tyler Buckner, according to the staff and according to Irish Breakdown, we might have been the only ones, gave or gives this team the best chance to win on a weekly basis.
Agree.
Regardless of what you've seen the first 2 weeks.
And he needs to play better.
Yes.
No doubt.
It was shown consistently in practices that myself and Vince went to. It's like there's no better option. Can you play Drew Pine? Sure, go ahead.
You may see him this week.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, next super chat, guys. Thistlemore Pottery with a super chat. Thank you very much for that. How does 25 Chris Tyree only get 3 carries? Was it just me, or did Marshall look like they had better athletes today, or was it just that Notre Dame athletes just didn't care enough? I don't know if I'd say they didn't care enough. I don't. That's a whole different level of questioning. I think Marshall looked a lot more confident in what they're doing. 100%. Marshall looked a lot, but one player that did get in there and looked confident, like, give me the freaking ball. This is what pisses me off more than anything about Chris Tyree not playing. When he got the ball, he ran with a sense of purpose, whether it was the 4th and 1, whether it was catching the screen, whether it was a kick return. When Chris Tyree got the rock, he had a sense of purpose. Am I wrong? Am I missing something, guys? Did he
No.
not? I'm not talking about speed. I'm talking about demeanor, attitude, all of it. All of it. I don't think there was enough Notre Dame guys that were playing confidently. And we talked about this during the week. Remember, we talked about the keys to the game on Thursday was start fast because this offense needs confidence. And if the more you struggle, the more that doubt creeps in. There's a lot of guys that didn't play confidently today. And there's a lot of reasons for that, including that they're still not as prepared as they need to be successful. Kevin Bugaj, what is the answer? I mean, we've talked a lot about it. We'll have more tomorrow when we dive into the film. Sean, I know you guys are going to talk a lot about it this week. We're going to talk about it a lot this week. We'll get there. We'll get there. And some of we've offered tonight. Nick Papel, what would it take for Reese to get fired right now? I mean, that's not really – I don't really want to go there. That's just not where I'm going to go, and I don't think that's necessarily the answer. I mean, it's just get better. It's not just about firing people. It's about getting better.
Right. Going scorched earth does not solve your problems.
Correct. Got some more super chats here. Mike Nolan with a super chat. Thank you, Mike. Offensive scheme just seems grab bag approach, must hit downfield throws, line back. Yes, Tyler needs to hit some of those. I mean, there was a lot of downfield shots today.
No doubt.
Early on, they did like a half roll throwback. He's got to lead him out more to the sideline. I'd like to see Braden compete for that. But you know who I think should be catching that ball? Lorenzo Styles, who's got like 2.5 inches on Braden Lindsey, who's got about 8 to 10 pounds on Braden Lindsey, who's got more Tobias Merriweather, right? Like, thing is, like, Braden needs to make that play, but like, they're still not using Braden all the time in ways that I think Braden can be more effective.
Right.
Crossers, drags, screens, and then post routes, and then some of those shots. But just having him run like one-on-one goes on the outside or having him win contested throws is not necessarily there. But on that particular play, Vince, that ball's got to just get thrown better. We're not sitting there saying Tyler played great. He didn't. It's just there's not playing great and doesn't always equal bench him.
Right.
And that's
exactly.
that's my. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does.
Sometimes it does. But
right. Part of it too is it's who's behind him. If there was a Phil Jakovic type of player behind him, then we'd be having maybe a different conversation. That's the other thing too. William Chesney. People, thank you for your super chat, William. People deserve love, support, and understanding the most when they deserve it the least. Coach Marcus Freeman will figure this out. He needs to have a heart-to-heart with Tommy Reese and move forward together. I think that last part's one of the most rational things we've heard. He's not fired. The only reason he would fire Tommy Reese right now is if he went to Tommy Reese and Tommy Reese was like, "I'm not listening to you."
Right.
Oh, okay, sure, you got to go. That's not who Tommy Reese is. I don't believe that would be a fireable offense.
Yes,
it is about you need to have a heart to heart and you need to figure this thing out. But then it's about you as the head coach setting the agenda for how it's going to go. And I appreciate the sentiment, William. I do. This one more pottery. If you're Coach Freeman, do you call your mentors tomorrow for advice? Yeah, absolutely. You always rely on your mentors in times like this. Hey, I guarantee they've all been there. I mean, they've all been there. I mean, Lou Holtz, went 5-6 his first year, and then this last year they start off like 8-1, and then lose their last 3 games or something like that, I believe. They've all been there. Yeah, you absolutely rely on your mentors in that regard. No question. Now, you got to take what they say and then apply it to what works best for you and how you are, Vince, but it's not a situation where you're, oh, this is what you did in 1982. Oh, cool. We're going to do exactly that thing. It's not quite how advice goes or how seeking advice.
Right.
Austin Lee with a super chat. Thank you, Austin. Most troubling thing to me is the D-line getting blown off the ball by Marshall.
Yeah.
Huge
problem. That's a huge problem.
Huge problem.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Mike Nolan with super chat. Thank you, Mike. Every D will put 7 in the box and press with corners. If you can't loosen with over-the-top plays, the O-line will never have a chance. That's true to a degree, Mike, but there's been so many plays where that wasn't the reason why it didn't work that there's some truth to what Mike is saying, Vince, but it's not the only thing. There's things the line's not doing that are independent of what is happening. I mean, there was times there was 4-man pressures today and they just whiffed.
Right.
So that there's a lot more. There's a lot more on that to it than that. Sean Hartman with a super chat. Any word on Buckner's injury? We have heard nothing official. I've talked to a couple people as we've chatted and gone through the show that have said that there's reason to be concerned about it. But, beyond that, I don't want to talk about it anymore because we don't know beyond that. We'll find out from Coach Freeman most likely on Monday. But, when it comes to injuries like that, if I don't have something, I'd want a little bit more closer to the thing to be more comfortable talking more about it. Ronnie Vasquez with a super chat. Thank you, Ronnie. Is there something wrong with Tyree? Why is he not getting reps? That's a great question, Ronnie. That's $1 million question right now. $1 million question. Joshua Board with Super Chat. Thank you, Joshua. Can someone please explain where Foskey and Marist is? They've been invisible so far. I mean, outside of a play here or play there, Joshua, you're not wrong. And that's the thing. What is one of the shows, Vince, that you and I did this summer together? The stars, for this team to be successful, the stars got to play like stars.
Yep. And they're not.
And so far this season, for the most part, that's not true. Now, I thought Mayer played his butt off today. I thought Brandon Joseph had a bad coverage play late in the game, but for the most part, played really well. But the other stars have not played like stars, Vince. Cam Hart is president of the fan club right there. Hasn't played well. I think Cam Hart would tell you he hasn't played well.
Right.
I would hope that Isaiah Foskey would tell you he hasn't played well. I would hope that Jason Adamiola would tell you he hasn't played well. I would hope that there isn't excuses. Hey, you know what? I got to play better. But I mean, when your stars aren't playing like stars, you're not going to win a lot of games. But that shouldn't be the reason you lose to Marshall.
Exactly.
It goes a lot deeper than that.
Exactly. Christopher
Federico, appreciate that. I didn't understand the super chat, but I've got the text down now. Thank you, Christopher. But the biggest points I had were Foskey has been an absolute no-show. Diggs needs to sit, and what did Tyree do to the coaching staff to keep him third string? That's the Tyree one is just mind-boggling.
Tyree one is unbelievable.
Yeah. I want to see with Logan Diggs, I don't think Logan is not a 3-carry guy. He's not going to come out there and look good in 3 carries. He's a guy that needs a little bit more, and that's the thing is get him some screens, get him some other things that and the bound. I mean. Look, yes, I want to see Logan play better, but I'm not in a position right now, Vince, where I'm like, he needs to sit.
Yeah.
I don't think they're using these kids incredibly well to their skill set to the degree that I want to see them and with the run game. Here's Rely Q. Please make an argument for and against retaining Tyrese, whether that be now or at the end of the season. Seems that BK wasn't holding anyone back. Well, that's a fair point. I mean, from what we've seen so far, right? It's a very fair point. And the thing, as far as the argument against, I don't think anything that's happened right now is a fireable offense today. End of the year, let's talk at the end of the year. And if this kind of continues throughout most of the year, then sure, we'll have to have that conversation. But I'm just not firing anybody right now because there's things that me as the head coach has not done to get this thing righted. I'm going to take those steps first, and then let me see how you respond to it. That's just how I feel right now. So retaining him, we have seen things from Tom Reese in the past. The fact is he's not getting the job done right now.
Correct.
I would think he knows that. I don't think he can't possibly be happy with. Now he's going to point to if we hit this pass here, if we hit that pass there. Well, okay. Well, I mean, you're the quarterback coach, though, right? You know what I mean? Like at some point in time, you got to own that. Okay, that's cool, but now go fix it, and I want to give him that chance to fix it. And if you can't, because look, here's the thing, your season's over basically as far as championship stuff, but there's a lot you're going to learn about this football team.
Sure.
I want to see how my coaches respond to the struggles. I want to see how my coaches respond to butt chewing. If I'm Jack Swarbrick, I want to see how Marcus Freeman responds to what's happened in these first 2 games because it's unacceptable, right? How are you going to fix this, coach? And then if I'm Marcus Freeman, I want to see how my assistant coaches respond to it. And then if I'm an assistant coach, I want to see how my players respond to it, So that's where I'm at now. I want to find out who I can really go to battle with, who has really got my back and who is really in for this and willing to say, hey, look, I want to see what coaches walk in the office tomorrow and say, Coach, man, this is on me. I want to see that. Because that's going to tell you who you really want around. Christopher Federico, if he can handle the volume, Tyree needs 75% of the snaps. I mean, I get what you're coming from, Christopher. I don't know if I would necessarily go there. I mean, Audric Estime, when he gets a little bit of room, runs well. I mean, he's just not able to get downhill at all. I mean, the backs to – it's not that my complaints about Chris Tyree, Vince, and I don't know if this is true for you, my complaints about Chris Tyree are not that I don't want the other 2 backs to play. It's
that you need him to play. It has nothing to do with taking carries away from those other guys. That's not it at all. It's just he needs to get more touches, whether it's in the pass game, the run game. You need to be more creative on how to get 25 the ball, period.
Well, period. And including the creativity of just letting him run the freaking offense.
Absolutely. Just get him the ball. Get him the ball.
Right.
Then there's other guys like that too, but specifically him because he's a veteran at this point.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Going to keep working through these. Carlton Butler, BK kept Reese from running this pointless offense. I
So
wouldn't say
saying-
that because we've seen stuff like this in the past.
Right.
But I mean, I understand it.
I get a good
understand
chuckle
it.
out of it that we were talking about how Kelly was holding Reese back and all these different things. He was holding him back from. Hey, man,
That's good.
Touche,
Good.
Carl.
Very well
I like
done.
that.
Very well done.
I
I don't
appreciate
think
that.
that's necessarily true. Did you watch BK's offense last Sunday?
Fair.
You know what I mean?
But their offense apparently is putting up a bunch of points against a D2 team. But whatever.
Against Southern, great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's wonderful. So anyway, we shall see. Let's keep rolling through these. TJ Fallon played the freshman tight end over Kevin Bauman. Number 84's run blocking is not that great. That's the thing, is if the number 2 tight end cannot run block, there's literally no reason
to have him on the field.
The interesting thing is he's made a couple plays in the past game, but they were on like those bootlegs.
All right.
And he was moving pretty slow after the catch down
He
that
was.
one, man. It's just like, I don't know if like he stumbled and couldn't correct himself or he's just that slow.
Right.
It's like, good Lord, dude. Like,
and I don't know if anybody gets in the end zone there because there was guys in front of him.
No, it's not that. It's more about
it was lumber and stumbering, man. It was.
But the reality is, the number 2 tight end, Vince, has got to block. If he can't block, there's no reason to like their 12 personnel stuff in the run game does not make them. They're not better running the football out of 12 personnel right now. Beyond protocols, T seemed to play slow. Are they carrying the weight of the world and playing tight? Is the tempo of practice too slow? Something else? I can't speak to the practice stuff.
Well, the practices that we saw, the tempo is high. I mean, the compete level is high. The tempo is high.
If you're going to blame that, Vince, would you say that maybe they're pushing them too hard? I mean, that would be the only case. I'm not saying that's the case, but that would be the only case you can make about practice from what you guys have told me about practice.
Yes, I agree.
This is hilarious, Vince. I'm sorry. Cham Joe, who I got a chance to meet today at this tailgate. By the way, Brandon Plesner, I want to thank you if you're still listening or if you listen later. My mom and dad did all the work today. We had to go in early to the game. My mom told me and my dad told me that Brandon actually was late getting in the game because he helped them break everything down and get it packed up and all that stuff, man. So I appreciate you very, very much, man. Appreciate you very much.
Probably worked out well for Brandon because he missed some of that game.
Yeah, no kidding. Reza with a super chat. Reza, my man, thank you very much. When there was 1 minute left and we were in the red zone, everybody was walking to the line. No urgency, even though there was still a chance. Mayor especially feels like they had already given up. Pretty sad. Sorry if I discussed. I joined late. No, we didn't discuss that, but that's a really good point.
Reza's not wrong.
There was no urgency on that last drive. They were like walking up. Like there was one time I looked at you and Drew was scrambling. He threw a bad ball and it bounced on the ground. I was like, thank God that was an incomplete pass.
Yes.
Like you don't want that 4-yard completion on 1st and 10 when the clock is running and you're down 2 scores.
Right.
Like that was like, what are they like? There was no urgency whatsoever.
There was none. I agree.
Yep. Got a super chat from Milton Fan 15. The problems are all too familiar. What indicates it predates Marcus Freeman? So what is left? Which indicates it predates Marcus Freeman. So what is left? Reese. I'll say this, and this comment is not about Tommy Reese. Marcus Freeman has got to do some things better, but I will say this, Vince, you know this. I have said this to you many times in the last 8 months. There are still way too many people in the Notre Dame program, back office wise, other areas around the football program that were here during a lot of the Brian Kelly tenure that I wish were gone. There's still a lot of that are in the recruiting office. There's still a few too many people from the BK era. And this isn't necessarily a Tommy Reese problem. I'm not speaking to Tommy Reese, but I do think there's something to that. The problem is that Marcus Freeman inherited a culture that we have criticized. He hasn't done what he needs to do to fix it.
Correct.
Right? So you can't blame all of this on Brian Kelly. He created the culture, and Marcus Freeman has not been able to change it,
right?
In my opinion.
Can I throw this one up just because I'm looking for reasons to chuckle? Josh says, let's just tank now for a better draft pick.
If only it worked that way.
I just thought that was funny.
That way.
I had to bring that
up. Oh, yeah. That's good.
Chuckle out of that.
Sean Hartman. Can we talk about the double pass play that turned into a 20-yard run and how bad we looked on that play? We're gonna have this play on tomorrow.
Very
but that
frustrating.
Was embarrassing.
It was
like the angle that Jordan Patelho took on that play was disgusting. He slowed up, and then I don't know what Maris Luafau was doing on that.
They were chasing that play for
over the top,
and I don't understand why they were chasing that play
over the top, Vince. Over the top of the block of the corner, like
correct.
Where are you going?
We'll get to that tomorrow.
Yeah.
I got plenty to say about that.
And that was a junior and a senior.
Right.
You know, like
Right.
that was bad. That was bad. Ed 3 with a super chat. Thank you. I miss Clark lead defensive scheme. I feel like Notre Dame needs to create more pre-snap chaos at the line of scrimmage. Actually, they do create a lot of pre-snap chaos at the line of scrimmage. I think the problem is post-snap, they've been out of position a little bit too weak. But let's not also act like this defense wasn't really freaking good last week. I thought they had not a great game, but the defense again, it was not good today. But I think most of what we saw on defense today, Vince, is correctable, either personnel-wise or just cleaning some stuff up. I actually want to know your opinion on this, Vince. I don't view both sides the same. There's a problem that is running through the entire team, but in regard to fixing things, I think what I saw on defense the last 2 weeks is a lot more fixable in a quick period of time than what I've seen on offense.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree with that, because I haven't seen some of these offensive groups get any better from last year. And that's the problem I see, because they've got new coaches and things that we thought would be fixed by now, at least heading in the right direction. And I haven't seen that at all. And we threw a lot of praise to some new coaches, and I haven't seen it yet. Now, maybe it changes as we move forward, but it should have started to change at this point, and it hasn't. And it's very, very disappointing to me. Very.
Yep. Exactly. All right. G. Rob Conley with a super chat. Thank you, G. Rob, it's good to see you. What do you tell your recruiting class? Are we going to lose some players? I'll say this, and this happens every time Notre Dame loses games. Players do not react as bad to things as fans do. They don't. That's not a criticism. It's just they're looking at it from a completely different point of view.
Correct.
You've already seen some...
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Vince. No, you're good.
I was going to say they also don't take big wins as seriously as fans do. You know what I mean? Like
usually,
it doesn't generally move the needle either way. Now, look, this is not a good
consistently winning good things. One game isn't doing that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, one game.
Right.
That's what I was referring to. But it's look, this is not a good look for Notre Dame. Losing to Marshall is not a good look. I don't think you're going to see mass defections from the recruiting class.
Could it hurt you with some uncommitted kids? Maybe.
Sure.
I mean, but how they respond is going to be the key, Vince.
I mean,
look, the reality is the kids that are in the class are, if anything, this is one of those things where if you're Marcus Freeman, and I got to, some of the stuff I've heard from my sources after the game is he's not happy, and he's kind of let it be known to some people that, hey, look, this is why you need to be here, because we're trying to change how this thing is going. And, I think that's the message to recruits. Hey, you don't like what you saw today? Come here and be part of the solution. But there's some guys that can be part of the solution that are on the team. They're just sitting on the sidelines, and that's got to change too. Mike Farino, I feel bad for you guys. I don't dislike Notre Dame at all, but also we Ohio State fans warned you about Al Washington. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. But I have not liked what I've seen from the defensive line the last 2 weeks, Vince.
Yeah, right.
They've regressed. Guys that we've seen play have regressed.
Yep.
So, I mean, I got nothing for Mike Farino right now. Oh, you're wrong, Mike. No. I got nothing for you. I've seen 2 games of it, and it's only 2 games. I'm not overreacting too much to 2 games, but you've seen a bunch of veteran players that were good in the past regress.
Right.
It's a problem.
Yep. Huge
it's a problem. I don't know. I'm not definitely saying it's Al Washington's fault, but he's a position coach, and he's got to be part of the conversation.
Right it's not a good look. It doesn't help him.
Yeah, Gus Webb with a super chat. Washington, Iowa State. I live in Ames. Beat Iowa makes this pill go down a little bit smoother. I'm sick of this. Did they end up winning? Who won that game? Did Iowa State end up beating Iowa? Let me see here. Let me find. Idaho's beating Indiana 10-0 at halftime. I guess it could get worse.
Paul Moala had a huge goal line stand tackle.
Yeah, Iowa State beat Iowa 10-7. I liked that kid a lot. I wish he could have got stayed healthy.
I love that kid, and it's not because
of Yep. Christopher Federicos is being reported at other places, but hearing the Buckner injury is significant. Look, everybody has their different views on how to report injuries, and that's fine. That's totally cool. I have a different. I'm not comfortable with that until we know more. But yes, we are hearing similar things to this. We're just not going to dive too much into it. Michael S. with a super chat. Is Notre Dame staff too inexperienced to compete? No. I mean, guys, this is not a young. They have a couple young coaches, but inexperience isn't why the offense has regressed this year under Tommy Rees, right? it's, I think, yeah, I have a lot to, I don't want to say too much about this right now, Vince, because I want to digest a little bit, but yes, no, it's not an inexperience problem. There's other reasons. That may be a thing in some areas, but no, I don't think that's the reason. Craig Honeycutt with a super chat. Thank you, Craig, very, very much. We have a super chat here from Michael S. Also, Notre Dame coaches seem amateurs compared to top school staffs, not up to requirement for a top college team. I mean, it's hyperbolic, but it's also, I don't have a lot for it, Vince. I mean, just that's the way it's kind of looked the last 2 weeks. I understand why people are saying that.
I get it.
Sean Duffy with a super chat. Appreciate that, Sean, very, very much. Ryan Smith with a super chat. Notre Dame wearing the Marshall green jerseys next week against Cal. A little bit of different color green, but I like the shade, Ryan. It's understandable right now.
I get it, man.
Yep. Brendan Clemente can't overreact on Freeman. Defense is okay. He inherited weak quarterbacks. Okay. Agree to disagree. We missed a wide open TD and a pick six and threw 3 TDs. Need playmakers. More 25. I mean, some of that I agree with, some of that I don't. Look, I don't think we should be overreacting to Marcus Freeman, but what we should do is let's see what he does, because how he responds to this is going to tell us a lot about him as a coach. And no one's defined by their first 2 games, guys, right? I mean, Nick Saban's first year at Alabama, they lost to Louisiana Monroe, right? I mean, let's not forget that. I mean, his first year at Alabama, they lost to Louisiana Monroe. And so it's what do you do about it, though? Right? That's my thing. Yeah. What do you do about it? And that's what we're going to learn about this football team.
Absolutely.
It was a part of a 4-game losing streak that also included a loss at Mississippi State, and Sylvester Croom. You know what I mean? So look, now here's the difference. Marcus Freeman inherited a better team than what Nick Saban inherited.
No doubt.
But it's not a tit for tat comparison. But the point is, you're not defined by season 1. You're defined by how you respond to season 1 if it's not good. Lou Holtz was 5-6 his first year at Notre Dame. Again, he inherited a different situation than Marcus Freeman. It's not an apples to apples comparison. However, my point is, Lou Holtz isn't defined by going 5-6 in his first year. He's defined by what he did in response to 5-6 and then the bowl loss in the second year. And Correct. That is why he's a legend. And so Marcus Freeman is not going to be defined by his first 2 games unless he allows it to define him. Meaning, Vince, he doesn't respond. That's going to be the key. How does he respond? That's what he's going to be remembered by.
Yep.
And that's what I'm looking forward to seeing, to be honest with you. I'm not happy we're here, but we're going to learn something about Coach Freeman. And I have a feeling. I'm not even going to say it.
You learn a lot more about coaches and people and when they're in a negative situation and how they respond. Mm-hmm. You learn a lot about people in that regard. And,
no doubt.
And Freeman is swimming in it right now. And we're going to learn a lot about how he reacts. No doubt about that.
No, absolutely. Here we go. Patrick Fitzgerald with a super chat. Patrick, thank you. Today was rough. Thank you for the super chat. Today was rough. Didn't see it coming. Anything on Tobias not playing? Thanks again for all you do. Patrick, the only thing I've heard is just coaching decision. That's all I've heard. And I've asked this specific question over the last week. And it's just coaching decision. It's not an injury. It's not discipline. It's nothing like that. It's just coaching decision. And I think that's a mistake. They need, listen, they are fine at safety right now without Xavier Watts. Yes. Fine. Move him to freaking offense full time. Yes. Put him on the field. Get him the ball. Put Tobias Merriweather on the field. Get him the ball. Roll with those kids. That's what you need to do. Flat out. People say, what do you need to do next? There's a lot, Vince. That's 2 things I'm doing right now. Right now. Xavier, you're not playing defense anymore. Okay, coach, I don't like that. Yeah, that's fine. Here's why. We want you on offense. You're going to use me? Heck yes. Get yourself ready. Get after it this week.
Yep.
Because if you put in the work this week, I'm going to put you on the field. I'm going to get you the ball. Flat out. Because if Tyler Buckner's out, if you think teams were crowding the box with Tyler Buckner in the game, wait till you see what they do when Drew Pine's in the game, meaning they're not as worried about the threat of the quarterback run. Not that it's a disrespect, like, oh, Drew can't throw. It's if you think it's exactly. Yeah. It's exactly. You're not – Tyler can at least hurt you if you miss on a blitz because of his athleticism. So, yeah, you get your best athletes on the field, and I don't care. If Tobias Merriweather can only run 3 freaking routes, and you better throw him the dang football on those 3 freaking routes.
Right.
And then coach his butt up and get him ready to go. And if he's not ready, if he goes out there and proves he's not ready, then okay, whatever. But give him I'd rather lose with that kid than what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
See here, Andrew Magaha. I hope I'm saying that correctly. A tough day, but come to Jesus moment for everyone. A challenge for boys to become men, and I'm excited to see what happens. I love that attitude, and that's very much. I mean, we're venting, but we're going to learn about this team's character, and we learned a lot about it today. We learned a lot about it today because we talked about this last week on our shows, Vince. We're going to learn a lot about the character of this football team, how they respond to Ohio State, and we learned that this team's got a lot of growing up to do. And there's some dudes that may not be that guy from a football character standpoint, not personal character. I mean, they're bad people. I'm talking about football character.
Right.
And we learned a lot about some people's football character this week, and they need to be challenged. And then I want to see how they respond, coaching wise and player wise. And that's where Coach Freeman has a really put a chance to put a stamp on this program is what he does next. Jason Warnock, did Marcus Freeman want Reese, or is it becoming a problem that Jack forced Reese on Freeman? Jack Swarbrick forced Reese on Freeman, but I don't think he needed to. I think, from what I understand, Coach Freeman still wanted Tommy Reese as offensive coordinator.
Yes, that is the way it went down. Tommy Reese was asked back before Freeman was named head coach. That is a fact.
But I was told that Marcus Freeman also expressed to Jack Swarbrick that if he gets the job, he wants Tommy Reese.
Yes,
so it wouldn't have mattered, and I didn't like that, and I didn't like the way it was reported.
Right.
It was reported as if,
yeah,
Marcus Freeman had no say-so and all this other nonsense, which just I didn't think was accurate.
Part of that's Notre Dame's fault. They're the ones that put the video out of Reese saying that he was back
before they hired the head coach. Yeah,
I mean, like that wasn't a good look. I wouldn't have done it that way personally.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So, some people, man. Crimson Forever. Yes, lost to Lisa Monroe and has been dominating sport ever since. 6 national titles, 8 SEC titles. 4. We're not criticizing Nick Saban, right? So chill. We're making the point that no one talks about Nick Saban because he lost. He's not defined by losing to Louisa Monroe. He's defined by 6 national titles and 8 SEC titles and 47 NFL first-round draft picks. That's the point, right? It wasn't a criticism of Nick Saban. It was he had a bad loss. He had a bad first year. And what did he do about it? He fixed it and got better. That's the point of the analogy.
All right. Crimson's all in his feelings because they almost lost.
You know what, though? They didn't. They got it done. They made the plays they need to do to win. And that's why they've got 6 national championships. They don't just go out there and dominate everybody every week. Sometimes they got to win ugly, and that's what great teams do, and that's what Notre Dame's got to learn to do. They haven't learned to win ugly under Coach Freeman.
Correct.
They haven't, and they got to learn. They got to learn that. There's no doubt. Michael Brahoni, whose idea from Notre and NBC was it to have Jason Garrett, Jake, and Jack Collinsworth call the games? They made an awful game even more awful.
I haven't listened, and I don't plan on it.
Can't speak to that. So, but I just wanted to bring your super chat up to thank you for the super chat. But I haven't heard anybody talking about that yet, to be honest with you, but I'll ask around about it.
I'm pretty sure that's pretty low on the totem pole.
Yeah, exactly. Notre Dame Nation, can you explain the lack of pre-snap movement and very few formations on offense? It seems Reese makes Vanilla look spectacular. Great show, guys. Yeah, that's not one of my takeaways from this game. Is lack of pre-snap movement. I mean, they don't have a lack of pre-snap movement. I don't think they're doing the stuff that I like, honestly. But they had a pre-snap jet sweep on Chris Tyree that kind of influenced the defense, which opened up Michael Mayer on that wheel route. I think they use a lot of different formations. I don't think that's an issue for me, Vince. I think they're not always lined up correctly. But is that one of the things you have a concern with from this game, Vince?
No, I don't.
Very few formations.
No, I don't have that.
I mean, they used 21 today, 11 today, 12 today, 13 today. I mean,
21.
Yeah, plenty of snaps at 21. A lot of snaps at 21. So, yeah. Milton Fan 15, BD, you indicate entities are present predating Marcus Freeman you don't like. When will you speak to that more specifically? I'm not going to speak to that more specifically because that would require me to call for people to be fired. And that's not what I do.
Right.
I mean, you can figure it out. I'm just saying, like, there's too many people that are part of what I felt helped create the Brian Kelly culture. You know, there's people here that I think are part of the culture that were here when Charlie Weiss was here, and they were BK's boys, and they were sometimes used to be his attack dogs and all that. And you figure those people out, but they're part of the cancer that is currently infecting Notre Dame, and it's going to be up to Coach Freeman to root those people out and move on from them at some point in time. And I'm not talking about coaches. I'm talking about other things. And that's something I felt, Vince, you know exactly who I'm talking about. But, those things need to get figured out, right? And that takes time. I mean, you're not always involved with those people when you're just the defensive coordinator.
Right, exactly.
And now you are, and it's time to make those changes.
Yep.
Make sure you fight hard to keep the people that you think can be part of the solution, and then fight like crazy to get the people out that are holding your program back.
Right.
And here's the thing, and if the AD and the people in charge won't back you on those moves, then maybe this isn't where you should be, right? And that's the way I look at it.
Yeah,
if these are things I think are needed to win, and you're not willing to support me, and I'm not talking about silly things like we need this. I'm talking about the people. I don't trust this guy. He's got to go. Sorry, we can't do it. Okay, then this isn't the place for me.
Right.
And figure that out soon. Real IQ, thank you for the super chat. If Tyler ends up missing games, do you think the staff is open to the idea of Steve Angeli playing significant time or even starting over Pine? I would say no, but I mean, look, I'm going to give him a chance. I'm going to let him. I mean, he's my number 2 quarterback now.
Sure.
And if he goes out there and outplays Drew Pine in practice, then yeah, sure, I would be. I love Drew, but Drew didn't show me anything today that made me think that he didn't look today like he looked coming off the bench against Wisconsin last year, Vince. And that's concerning because that kind of looks a lot like what we saw in the spring. Like,
right.
Like what we saw in the spring was not the kid we saw against Cincinnati and Wisconsin. So I think Drew, I mean, Steve would have to most likely really outplay Drew in practice this week to start over him.
Absolutely.
But Steve's gonna get more reps this week if this is with the hypothetical that Real IQ is referring to. If Tyler Buckner's out, Steve's going to get a lot of reps, but the reality is if Drew Pine doesn't play well, I'm not necessarily going to say I'm going to be against going to Steve Angeli. But here's the thing: if you go to Steve and you lose Drew, mentally, you got nowhere else to go, man.
You're in big trouble then.
And so you got to be real. You're in a real tenuous situation right now, in my opinion. Greg Lisman Jr., thank you for the super chat, Greg. It seems like they prepared in the offseason for one game and not the entire season. And after losing last week, it looked deflated, the mentality in the locker room. Greg, that's a great point. And that's something that Vince and I talked about during the offseason. Like, you're going to learn a lot about this team by how they respond to the Ohio State game. Win, how do you respond to it? Lose, how to respond to it. And that was a point between the show we did this week, Vince, of that on our afternoon show of, we're going to learn a lot about this football team by how they come out and play on Saturday. And I always talk about execution-wise, just mentality and all that. And the fact that they didn't step up to the plate emotionally and physically and mentally is problematic. It's very problematic.
Yep.
John the Falcon with Super Chat. I know Bayless is well regarded, but we are weak in the trenches and not closing fourth quarter leads. Does strength conditioning need to be reevaluated?
I don't think that's
not. Absolutely not.
I'm sorry.
It's the way they're playing. I mean, I don't care how strong you are or how good your strength coaching program is. When you hit a guy and you stop moving your feet, you're not going to win. I don't care if you have who you have. Yeah, you can have Thor as your strength coach. It won't matter. Like, I don't really care. It's not that. And the wearing down in the fourth quarter, I mean, maybe you could say that, but I think that's more of a practice and a preparation thing than anything else, to be honest.
Since Bayless got here, wearing down in the fourth quarter has not been an issue.
Right.
He didn't just change what he does.
Right.
So, yeah, sorry. I don't.
Right. No, I mean, but look, everything is on the table for y'all. That's why we're bringing stuff like everything is on the table. Everything needs to be reevaluated. This is just not one of those things, in my opinion, John. So we're not hammering you for the opinion because look, I mean, what he said is true. It's just, it's not the strength program that I'm putting that on. To your point, Vince, because that hasn't been an issue for them in the past, in my opinion. Sean Hartman with a super chat. Thank you, Sean. If I'm Xavier Watts, I'd be pretty upset with the moving positions and not being used really at all. Too good of a kid not to be used. He did play defense today. He had a really good tackle on a bubble and then took a bad angle on the next play and gave up 20-some yard gain. But that's part of the thing is when you're trying to juggle both of those, it can be a little bit difficult. I would literally move him to receiver and just say, go play, and we're going to play you. And tell Ty Reese, figure it out. I mean, that's the conversation I'm having with Coach Reese this week. Tobias is going to play. Xavier's going to play. Chris Tyree needs the ball more. It's part of the offense. How do you want me to do that? Figure it out. That's what you get paid for. Figure it out. But those three things are happening. They are happening. What, we're going to be bench Logan and Aldrich? Nope. But Chris is your lead back. Tobias is going to play. Xavier's going to play. And they need the ball. You figure out the rest. Right. And to me, that's what needs to happen. Sean Stewart with a super chat. Thank you, Sean. And I think we're gonna wrap up with this, Vince. I think this is the last of our super chat, so we appreciate y'all very, very much. Sean Stewart says fighters don't always throw haymakers. There are other punches that can be thrown to get things going. Yeah, I think haymakers usually are things that you do when you feel like you're trapped, and haymakers can lead to you being out of control, right? I'm not caring too much about haymakers. What I care about is figuring out what is the problem here and then aggressively going after it. And we're just not seeing that right now. We're not seeing that. So, look, rest of the season, we'll figure out what the rest of the season is like. Tomorrow, we're going to break down the game. If Notre Dame loses to Cal next week, it could possibly be a 5-hour show. You guys are going to need Mountain Dew IVs. If they lose next week to Cal, it'll be a pretty short show, to be honest with you. Yeah. Yep. So, hey, everybody, that's going to do it for tonight. We will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Vince and I are going to dive into the film. I am not looking forward to this film, but that's part of the job.
I wasn't looking forward to watching last week's film, and this is going to be 1,000 times worse.
Part of the job. And we'll be back tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Monday, Ryan and Sean will have a recruiting show, and then we'll talk college football. Sean Stiers is going to be back Monday night, everybody, I believe, for IB Nation Sports Talk. We're going to talk more and more about what comes next, right? So we're not just going to vent and piss and moan the next week. Right. We're going to start talking about solutions. And we're going to find out who's really about this thing. From a fan standpoint, we've already had people cancel. Fine, go. It's all good. Go. If it's whatever. We're going to find out who's about this thing from a player standpoint, who's about this thing from a coach's standpoint. Somebody, hey, I'm going to transfer. All right, go.
Yeah,
go, because you aren't about this thing. And it's like I said, it's when things go wrong, when you find out who's about this.
Yep.
Who really has my back. Right? Who I can really go to war with and go to battle with, and who I can really trust. And that's what Marcus Freeman needs to do. What he needs to make his moves to find out who that person is. Like somebody just said in the chat, who are my ride or dies?
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
Who are my ride or dies? Like, my business is going great. But you know what? My wife was by my side just as much when we were broke. You know what I mean? That's my ride or die right there. Right? Vince, same way. Right? Sean Davis, same way. Find out who your ride or dies are, man. And Marcus Freeman needs to figure that out.
Yep.
And the people that aren't, you know what I mean? Appreciate you. Be gone. And I'll sign a 30-man freaking recruiting class because I'll take a freshman next year who's going to play his butt off and loves Notre Dame and wants to be here and give me everything he's got and has faith in me and has my back and he knows I have his back. Exactly. I'll play a bunch of freshmen next year that have that attitude if that's what it takes to change the culture. Because there is a culture change, and that can be some of the hardest things to change is when you have had success and there's a cancer still growing. And that's what he's got to fix. Because if he doesn't fix it, then he's going to not be here very long. He's got to fix it. And that means sometimes making some tough changes for yourself and for people around you. At the end of the day, Sean or Vince, it's about finding out who those people are that, hey, I'm going to come at you and I'm going to challenge you and you need to step up. Brian Mason showed me that's a ride or die for me right there, man.
Yep.
That's one of my boys. I know I can believe it because I called him out during the week. You know what he did? He freaking got it done. That's my man right there. Let's roll, son. Let's do this. You over here? Not so sure yet. Right? And we're all going to find that out this week. Right? People to cancel their subscriptions, you're not that with me right now, right? It's all good. Do what you got to do. But I now know who those people are. We all find that out, man. So we'll be back tomorrow, 7 o'clock p.m. Appreciate y'all very much. Today sucked, but there will be tomorrow. There will be tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll start talking about, what needs to get changed and what can be fixed and what can't be fixed and all that kind of stuff. So y'all have a great rest of your night. I'm going to go spend some time with my family. Y'all do the same thing. Don't take for granted the blessings that we've been given, y'all. And days like today, you really remember that. You really remember that. So have a great rest of your day, everybody. And thank you for joining us on the Irish Breakdown podcast. Appreciate y'all on those last 2 super chats. We love y'all. Take care, everybody.